Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. I am your host, Jimmy Good, and joining me once again, my incredibly special guest and friend, Jack from Theme Park History. Jack, how the heck are you, pal?
I'm doing pretty well, Jimmy. Thanks for having me on. And before we get started, let me just say, I know you did it, I think, last year or earlier this year. Congratulations on the move to Hollywood, baby.
Yes.
I know it's Hollywood over there, but congratulations. That's a big commitment.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Man, it was it was a big deal, obviously, and it's still sometimes I kind of catch myself where I'm like, oh, I actually did it. Because, there's that kind of I want to do this thing, and then finally getting to do it. But I appreciate it. And that just means that you don't have any excuse anymore to not come to Universal Studios Hollywood and hang out someday. So, if you come, even if we don't hang out, I just want to know that you come here, and I'll just be like, yeah, you should go. Because obviously, you're...
Is that an invite to crash on your couch?
Yeah, dude, you're welcome anytime, buddy. I got it right here. I'm looking right at it. That would be great.
Well, that's good. I mean, if it's an offer, I appreciate it. I might take you up one day on it. But, it's good now that if I ever decide to head that way, at least you're around.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like I'm stuck going by myself. And you know those parks now a little bit better than I do. So at least, you can show me around places and things I might miss.
Oh, that would be so much fun. And it's so funny because I have not been back to Universal Studios for a little bit. And I would love to go back there because I had a really fun time a few months ago while I was there with the new Jurassic World stuff. They've changed that stuff up a lot, and they've really gotten it into its true final form because it was kind of doing a phased opening, just like everything seems to be doing these days. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about for people who are listening to this. Jack has been on the show in the past, and we usually just kind of converse and talk about things. And there's been a lot that has gone on in the world of theme parks. And basically what I wanted to do is to have Jack on the show here and to get his take on things because there's so much. And one of the things I want to start with talking about Universal Studios Hollywood. What are your thoughts on the Jurassic World overlay versus just old school Jurassic Park?
Well, as someone who's comes from going to these parks in the 90s and everything, I still like Jurassic Park a lot. Mm-hmm. I enjoy those movies more than the Jurassic World movies. I don't know if it's just old school versus new school. Mm-hmm. But I don't dislike Jurassic World the ride as much as other people have come out to say, oh, they ruined the classic and everything. When it opened, I do agree with you. A lot of those final touches were missing. Yeah. I think the Indominus Rex right before the lift wasn't there.
Yep.
And then the final scene, which I won't spoil, but obviously if you've seen it, or you have an idea of what Jurassic World's about, to have those two animatronics finally looking like animatronics is pretty impressive. And they didn't really change much. They tweaked some of it, but the ride layout stays the same. It's still a water boat ride with a drop at the end. I understand you have to adapt, and I think for the Hollywood version, they've done a pretty good job of being able to change it, but keep the same spirit as the original. Mm-hmm. But that being said, I still think it's very interesting that now across the board, you look at other parks like Islands of Adventure, and it's Jurassic Park, its island.
Yeah.
It now has Jurassic World, it has the Velocicoaster. And you look at the new park they just had, Universal Studios Beijing, it's an entire area dedicated to Jurassic World, not Jurassic Park. So while I like Jurassic World, I'm a little bit nervous that all these original Jurassic Park attractions are eventually going to get that same type of change, the same type of new overlay. And I think if that happens, then you're going to see a lot more of the Universal fans come out and not be the biggest fans of it. They're gonna dissent about it because Jurassic Park the ride, it's a classic, and change is hard for everybody. So I don't hate the new ride, the new version of it, but also I like it. You got to keep originals somewhere. So don't touch Islands of Adventure. Leave that one the way it is.
Yeah, I was wondering about the River Adventure over there in Islands, and I was thinking, man, is it more a matter of when, not if? Just because Velocicoaster is staring down at it, right across this, the little walking path, right? It's it's right there, and I think there's still room for both. But I don't know, man. Do you think River Adventure is sticking around like in its current form, or do you think that's just they're waiting for the time to switch it over?
It's interesting because it's been a while since I've actually looked into the rights and everything, but I know if I can recall, it's like the Cliff Note version, is that the rights to the Jurassic Park the franchise itself, eventually you're going to revert to uh, the family of Michael Crichton
Oh,
and all of that. I don't know if it's already happened. That's why these new movies are Jurassic World. They are not Jurassic Park. Now, I don't know. I don't.
okay.
Again, I haven't done my research. I don't know if the contracts have changed or anything. But obviously, Universal has taken this approach where we're not doing anything Jurassic Park related going forward. Everything is Jurassic World. So I want to say, is it a matter of time? Maybe,
Yeah.
probably, but I can't tell you what that time frame is. Is it 2 to 3 years from now? Is it 10 years down the line? I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, is it going to happen? Probably, but I feel like it's unfortunately like the ET Adventure over at Universal Studios Florida.
Yeah.
It's eventually going to close. You just don't know when.
Yes, and I think if I remember correctly with E.T. specifically, that was like a Spielberg thing where they had E.T. here in Hollywood and it shut down, and Spielberg's like, yeah, that's not, I don't want that to happen in Orlando.
He claims that's because obviously that's his movie, his favorite movie, or whatever it is, his baby. But I also think it comes down to the fact that the original contract he signed with Universal Studios Florida states he gets a cut of all the ticket sales every year
Oh,
because of his creative control on the rides he was involved in.
wow.
So I think when the park opened, you had Jaws, Back to the
Mhm.
Future, and E.T. All three rides he was somewhat involved in. E.T. being the most heavy, dictated by his hand.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that he needs more money because he obviously doesn't. But if E.T. closes, I don't think that contract has to stand anymore. I think it's null and void.
Sure.
And I think this whole deal, too, not that it's really a major issue, I think, at this point, is that Steven Spielberg, because of his contract, can't actually make a ride for Disney.
Oh, really?
Yes, but when you think about it, I think there's only one Disney movie he's done in his entire career. I think that was the BFG, Big Friendly Giant.
Yeah, well, and now it's a little murky just because of Indiana Jones and the acquisition.
Yeah, so I
Right.
mean, but even at this case, and I'm not saying that he's not influential anymore, but if they like Disney decide to tout, oh, Steven Spielberg's making an attraction for Disney, I don't think it holds that much weight like it would have done in the '90s when he was like, doing Jurassic Park and all the other huge blockbusters. I just don't. He's never been a Disney guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's always been more of a Universal. Back to the Future. He's executive producer on,
Mm-hmm.
Jaws, obviously, E.T., Jurassic Park. 4 of the biggest franchises for Universal Pictures of all time. I just don't see. I mean, Universal wants to get out of it, obviously, but at the same time, they don't want to piss him off, and maybe it comes to bite them in the ass down the line.
Yeah. Oh, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, it would be interesting to hear him, or just like even if it wasn't with Disney, if he got to help make another attraction again. Just like because I feel like we were talking about River Adventure, was all sparked it. That was like kind of running concurrently with him making Jurassic Park, like basically or
Yeah.
right after. It's nuts.
Yeah, and it's in that case, like I said, I'm talking about Universal Studios Florida. He obviously too was one of the main players in that ride itself.
Yeah.
But I tend not to think about that because I always go back to the original contract. Because originally, before they decided to do Islands of Adventure, where Men in Black Alien Attack is now, they wanted to put the Jurassic Park ride there.
Oh.
And then when they
okay.
say, "Oh, park's doing great, tourism's up, Florida, everybody's coming to Florida," and they decide to expand, they moved those plans over to become one of the cornerstones of Islands of Adventure itself.
Yeah.
So, but you mentioned it. He's had his fingerprints on many of the biggest attractions that Universal's ever made. So, even like Jurassic World, I think he's an executive producer on that film franchise.
He might be. I think he is. He's involved, and I would imagine if he's in it, he's executive producing. Yeah.
And I feel like, he probably had something to say. They probably just because they respect him enough, I think Universal went to him and say, "Hey, listen, Steve, we're changing Jurassic Park to Jurassic World. Do you have any input on what we should do? Maybe he said something, maybe they didn't even bother, but I feel like they respect him enough to actually go out of their way to just let him know of these changes.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Well, it's interesting too about with River Adventure, if they did kind of flip it or kind of update it in that regard. I think it would be so neat, and I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it. But there's some sequences in there, especially the very first one, that if you tweaked it and made it a little different, you could still keep the old-fashioned, introduction with the Ultrasaurs and stuff. Or you could give Steven a chance to kind of do a Jaws type situation with a creature that might be a little bit of a different setup. I think you could do it just because Jurassic World is really fast and loose with their security measures anyway. And I don't know, man. I feel like Jurassic World is coming, even though I want River Adventure to stay. And then also I love that in Hollywood here, it's different. I like it when there are different things at different parks, right?
I guess missed that. That's one of the, it's happening everywhere now. It's like, not to say it's a cookie cutter, but it's like, okay, just put down the mold. You have the same thing over and over again. But you are right, where if you had something unique, it makes people want to go out of their way to go see it. Mm-hmm. So if you're offering the same attraction in Hollywood and Florida, obviously, depending on where you live, you'll go closer. Yep. But also, if there's no incentive, like Disneyland has, the Indiana Jones Adventure, mm-hmm. There's nothing like that in Florida. And, it's such a unique ride that, it kind of would make somebody like myself want to go out to Disneyland to see it. I know there's, Dinosaur Countdown to Extinction, whatever mm-hmm. you want to call it, in Animal Kingdom. It's not the same, it's the same ride system, but one's Indiana Jones, the other one is, a 20-year-old CGI movie now?
Yep, yeah, something like that.
So I miss the days, like you said, where it was like unique attractions, something different, made you want to go out of your way to go visit that place.
Yeah.
Now it just seems like let's get everything in the same park because no matter what, it'll draw people.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I wonder if there's anybody out there who would prefer Dinosaur over Indiana Jones besides yours truly who's listening to this right now. Because I've talked to people about this. That I grew up with dinosaurs, so that's like my mm-hmm. love. But I've heard the Indiana Jones that's over at Tokyo Disney Sea is really highly updated, even though it's based on like the Crystal Skull kind of, which is super weird that like they picked that one thing out to be their thing. Yeah, but I want to go on that one because that might be like the best one of them all.
Yeah, I mean, I think they took the same concept, but I think since it was like, don't hold me to it, I think it was like 5 or 6 years later after the original, they learned from their mistakes from the original one in Disneyland and were able to improve on it. It's like, trying to think of another attraction. It's kind of like, well, you mentioned Jurassic Park, but it's kind of like the fact that you have the riverboat one, right? In mm-hmm. Hollywood, Japan, Florida, but like Singapore has the actual river raft.
Yes.
It's the whitewater rafting-ish type of ride. So we just said about like different versions of the ride. Even if it's the same IP, if it's different everywhere with a different type of ride system or something that's tweaked, that's actually a pretty interesting concept. And I don't know why more theme parks don't do it, probably because of cost.
Yeah.
But seeing that type of version of the ride, which is what the original was supposed to be more like, not the original concept was supposed to be more like,
mm-hmm.
That type of ride I would enjoy, I think. But then again, it's like, that's a little bit more money probably. It's a little bit more confusing to ride goers because you keep constantly spinning.
Yeah.
Or whatever the case might be. But, it comes down to what these companies want to do these days. And I think they just take the safe bet and go, if it's easier just to bring it from one park to the other, costs us a lot less than building something unique and different, let's just go with that.
Yeah. It's so funny you bring up that one because I have forgotten I've seen a POV of that Jurassic Park, like the one in Singapore where it is spinning around and there's like an elevator shaft and everything. And all I'm thinking is like people complain about Kali River Rapids over in like Animal Kingdom, and they complain about Grizzly River Run a little bit here too. You just throw a few animatronics on there and people are going to be excited. You know what I mean? Like you just put a few things here and there, people will love it.
Please bring back the animatronics. Get rid of the CGI screens.
Exactly.
You bring that back, and people will go all of a sudden go, "Wow, this is different. It's like, no, this is what the standard was back in the day.
Oh my gosh. And I'm just saying, like, and I'm dancing around a little bit, but if you were to change River Adventure in Florida and you were trying to kind of recreate a similar scene they have out here in Hollywood with a certain creature, but if you did it practically, and you, like, I don't know, man, it would be terrifying. It might be scarier than the ending. Like, oh my gosh, it'd be so cool.
Yeah, it definitely, certain changes could be done, and like, again, I don't build theme park rides, so what I might suggest might be practically impossible by engineers,
Right.
but like, creative process goes as far as I guess these companies allow it to be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, hey, listen, we could do something crazy. You could have all these different animatronics, all these different dinosaurs from the new franchise, and corporate might go, that's great, but we have 9 months to turn it around, and we have a budget of like $5. So good luck. Do what you can, and don't worry. They're still going to come ride it. We'll worry about the negative feedback afterwards.
Yeah, well, phased openings, right? Yeah, oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I'm the same way though too. Like, I always want to give like ideas of like how to optimize something, and then an engineer would come to me and be like, Jimmy, it's physically impossible to do the thing you're talking about. I'd be like, I'm sorry. I thought it'd be a good idea to add a second row on Peter Pan, like they have in Paris. But yeah, that's a whole other thing. Speaking though, I want to talk to you about this too. A cornerstone, that was the term you used for Jurassic, kind of in the parks for Universal now. And that's what they're calling Nintendo Land going forward, not only here in Hollywood, which I have seen the construction, but then also over eventually at Epic Universe. What do you think about Nintendo Land coming to America? Oh, and Japan, obviously. It's already there.
It's still weird that, like, back in 2015 or 2016, when I was like, oh, Nintendo is coming to Universal. Like, it just, not that it's not a good blend, but it just seems, somebody who's like, follows video games and how stern Nintendo has been about their properties and their IPs, to see them branch out to that extent that they didn't decide to, let's just say, build their own theme park, but go somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's weird, but I mean, I've seen what they've done with Super Nintendo Land, and I'm actually very impressed. I will say that Universal, with franchises that they don't own and probably spent a lot of money to be able to get in their parks, they don't sugarcoat it. They go all out. They did it for Potter, and they obviously have done it for Super Nintendo Land. Not even just talking about the rides, just the environment, the theming, the little nicks and knacks that they have, and things that if you've played the games throughout the years, you go, oh, that's clever, that's cute. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And even people who don't know, obviously, if you play video games, you probably know about Mario, you know about Nintendo. So even if you're not the biggest diehard fan, it's actually just a great fit. Needless to say, like, for Universal Studios Hollywood, a place that's been built on movies, you have a video game franchise as one of your big cornerstones. It's a little bit weird, but they'll probably play it off. No, we did a CGI movie. Chris Pratt's Mario. Don't worry, it fits right in now.
Yep, right.
So, I mean, I'm excited for it. The problem is, like you just said, it's the Epic Universe, and the earliest I've heard might be 2024 or 2025.
Yeah.
So that means either I'm going to Hollywood, or you got to go to Japan. And even now, Japan, they just, I think, announced last month, they're getting an expansion, and it's going to be all about Donkey Kong Country.
Yeah.
So with a minecart roller coaster, which we talked about things that seemed impractical, even as a kid, that is the one type of ride I've always wanted.
Yeah, right?
Because as much as people kind of despise those parts in the Donkey Kong Country games, those were my favorite. Yeah. So to actually be able to get in something that looks like a minecart and feel like I'm, jumping, broken rails and stuff like that, I look forward to that whenever it opens.
Yeah.
But even on top of that, you mentioned Mario. Now we're getting Donkey Kong. They announced something with Pokemon in Japan, which that should be gangbusters. That's going to sell like hotcakes, whatever they do, because it's Pokemon. Mm-hmm. Whether people like it or not, it still is super popular. And then even the rumor for the longest time for Islands of Adventure was that the Lost Continent was going to close and it was become Hyrule. And we're going to have a major attraction based off of Zelda.
Wow, yeah.
And I'm like, even though it doesn't seem like a good fit, to see the attractions they've built so far for Nintendo, I actually look forward to what Universal can accomplish going ahead
Yeah.
with those franchises. Especially since Nintendo's probably very hands-on too. They're not just like, yeah, all right, do whatever you want. They're probably going to be the ones that sign off on anything because they don't want the name to be tarnished, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally. Man, you make so many good points. First thing I want to jump back to for just a second. I remember being inadvertently misled as a child that the Indiana Jones Adventure: Temple of the Forbidden Eye was like the minecart sequence in Temple of Doom. Even though that is not the case, and that's more like the one they have over in Paris and also Tokyo Disney Sea, like the actual little mine carts that you sit in. So like hearing that, I'm the same way. I was like, man, that sounds like such a cool idea. And obviously it's a little different, I think, than, a lot of people would maybe picture it. But yeah, that like they are pushing forward on this. And I also think it helps make, especially here in Hollywood, the fact that this theme park is on the side of a mountain and is ensconced by actual movies and TV shows being made. That is so cool that it's still that way. And somehow they have found ways to, get rid of some of the things in, former sound stages and expand out. Because, a few years ago, if you would have told me that they were going to add something to that park, especially on the lower lot where my favorite stuff is, I would have been like, where are you going to put it? And they're like, it's down this little alleyway over here. We're going to knock some things down and change some stuff. And it's like, oh, okay. That's crazy.
Yeah, I just still find it ironic that when it opened, Universal Studios Hollywood, it was a working movie studio with a theme park attached.
Yeah.
Now, not 30 years, because I know it's been open for a long-ass time.
Yeah.
But by, when Potter opened, that was officially the switch, where it's like, oh, it's a theme park, and there's a working movie studio somewhere, in there.
Yeah.
So it's amazing to see how, not only how, the movie industry has changed from, sound stages to on-set to all this other stuff, but also to see, the idea of what these parks were. It's like, oh, it was a way to bring people in. Now it's one of our main ways of making money outside of movies and everything else that we do. So I'm very happy, especially in the case of Universal, because there was a time during the late 90s, early 2000s that it didn't seem like the parent company of Universal really gave a damn about the parks, and you're like, oh, this is not good. And then when Comcast actually bought it and they saw how successful Potter was, they realized, wait a minute, there is this niche that we can build parks, highly theme them out, immersive experiences, and people will come and throw all types of money at it.
Yeah.
And that if you make a good theme park attraction, people will come. Mm-hmm. And Potter was the example, both Diagon Alley and, Hogsmeade, and now Super Nintendo Land, at least in Japan, is proving that as well. So, and this goes this way too. If you spend a lot of money on a theme park attraction or land or whatever, and it's successful, going down the line, they'll still want to spend more money.
Yeah.
So, and that's to me, that's the biggest positive about something like Potter and Nintendo. 10 years ago, not even 10 years ago, because Potter was probably around, what's about to open around then? 20 years ago, none of these people would take a chance on that. You build a ride, something mediocre at best, and go, we call it a day. Now the fact that we're seeing this, not to say that Disney was copying, but Potter was really successful. All of a sudden we have Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
So, and we're going to probably, and then I say Galaxy's Edge, then you say Marvel's, Avengers Campus. So it goes without saying, if you know what you're doing and you build something that the fans will want, keep doing it because it works without, just taking shortcuts and everything.
Oh, yeah, totally. It's so funny, too, over here, as someone who's lucky enough to experience both coasts and their parks, how, when I walk into, Hogsmeade here and Hogwarts and everything, I feel so bad because I'm like, okay, over there is probably where Hagrid's would go if they had the room. And I'm thinking of all these things and I'm like, man, I get really sick on that Forbidden Journey. And I just wish that we could have Diagon Alley over here, even though Hogwarts Castle looks fantastic. I'm like, can we do that? But see, like I said before, it's okay. It makes me want to go to Orlando. it makes me want to go over there and experience those things because they can't put them here or they haven't yet. And I hope they continue to do that because I think that's really smart, right? Because it's going to get me to go to both.
Yeah, I mean, here's the only thing with Hollywood is that spacing is always a problem. And like you said, they're knocking down sound stages, but also in the case of, you mentioned it, and it's not, in Florida, it's not as big of a deal as it is in California. It's about fault lines. It's about earthquakes.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds absurd, but when you think about it, there's only one, I hope I'm getting this right, there's only one roller coaster in Hollywood, and that is the Revenge of the Mummy.
That's correct.
And again, I don't know if I'm right because you got parks out there like Six Flags and Disney does some stuff too. I don't think they have any really major roller coasters outside of the Incredicoaster. But I've always heard that from people. Yeah, well, they don't do it because God forbid they have an earthquake. The whole foundation of a roller coaster track might be gone. You might have to rebuild it from the ground up. So they're hesitant to kind of build stuff like that because you drill right into the foundation, stuff happens, you have a bad earthquake or something, even a minor thing, and the whole foundation might have cracked, and it has to be shut down. It's condemned.
Yeah.
So, it goes without saying that you want those types of rides, but, I mean, the best example was Back to the Future, Simpsons ride. In Hollywood, that building supposedly is built with rolling wheels. In case of an earthquake, a tremor, or something,
wow,
since it's a very heavily cemented building with the giant IMAX screens inside, it kind of can take some of that tension, that pressure off the foundation.
That's
Again,
nuts.
it's been a long time since I've read up on that, but it's something along those lines.
Okay. Well, that makes sense why there's so many more screen-based attractions than also like spacing, like you're saying before, and probably cost. Like, if you do a lot of these things like Simpsons or Despicable Me, where they are already animated, you're like, well, we don't need a Gru animatronic, even though like that would be kind of interesting to see, or like the Minions, like Minion animatronics, when you can just kind of do like just screen-based things in theaters.
And listen, you've already paid for the ride film, so basically you've already cut out. I mean, usually the ride film itself, depending on what ride it is the most expensive part of these screen-based attractions. So it's like if I had a budget of $30 million for a ride and 20 of it went towards the ride film, I'm not going to build it in one place. Yeah. I can go build it somewhere else, maybe for a building for $10 million because I already have the ride film. So that's why, even though they're popular, Minions Mayhem is in Hollywood, Florida, Japan, Singapore, Beijing. It's in like every Universal Studios theme park. I think it's the only attraction like that. With Universal Studios in its title. Yeah. But, I mean, Shrek did it in 3 different parks. Spider-Man is in, Florida and Japan. What else is screen-based that is around? I don't think I'm forgetting anything. But the Transformers is in a couple of parks. So, at the end of the day, it goes back to the cookie cutter. It's like, if I already spent this much money on something, why don't I just get it everywhere so I can get back a return on investment?
Sure.
Is it ideal for a theme park fan? No. But you got to remember, these corporate bigwigs, they don't care about what you or me are saying. They care about how many people are coming to our parks. 10 million. Do it again. New park, put in that thing. Who cares?
Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting, too, because over here in Hollywood, they just recently opened up that Secret Life of Pets ride, which is like a really, 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 really slow-moving dark ride, omnimover kind of thing. And it's so interesting to me because it's primarily animatronics. Like, it's just so fascinating that they decided to basically go against what I was just saying there, and instead of do like another, a theater-based show, they were like, oh, let's just do like a little attraction up here on the second floor of these buildings we have and have actual like full animatronics for all these dogs and things. I'm like, really? And with like some screen elements here and there, it feels like it's such an outlier of something, but at least it was something that was tangible, and I was like, okay, thank you. Like, I appreciate it.
It's a breath of fresh air. Yeah. Ironically enough, to have animatronics in an attraction or not rely heavily on screens, we're being a motion-based simulator,
Yep. Yeah. I just, that's why, going back to seeing some of these, especially the newer dinosaurs that I won't specify here, but, like seeing them fully operational, and real, like there's a feeling there. And you're like, oh, wow, this is really cool. And the way they have, Jurassic World now, And maybe you could say this with Forbidden Journey too. Those are some of the only things I feel like in Universal Studios Hollywood that if you wanted to stack them up against Disney, I would show those. Like if someone's like, all right, show me something that's better than Haunted Mansion or Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah, you maybe like, you're going to have nostalgia for those other ones. And I absolutely adore those attractions, but I would at least be able to show you a few at Universal Studios Hollywood that I'd be like, well, if you liked those, you'll probably like this thing right here, like to some extent, even if it doesn't have the same theme you might like, or so on and so forth. But it's nice to see that. And I just really wish. I know animatronics are so expensive and it's so much work, but some of that stuff, like imagine real Optimus Prime. Like, they have meet and greets with them, but like a real animatronic of something like that. Yeah, or like Imhotep is still an animatronic here, which is great. And I'm like, yeah, I love that stuff, man. I'm just glad Imhotep's sticking around because I wonder how close they got to retheming that when Tom Cruise's Mummy came out.
Well, they waited to see how much of a box office bomb it ended up being. I mean, that was the plan basically for Florida, and that didn't happen because they said we're going to base it off of something that people didn't go see. And then that's the case too of like fan favorites. Change that for like a terrible reboot. Yeah, not going to go over well.
Yeah.
Even right now, the rumor came out from Orlando Park Stop that they, with this whole refurbishment they're doing of the ride for a long time, I think 4 to 6 months.
Oh wow.
They're rebuilding the entire track, redoing everything.
Oh wow.
They're cutting storyline elements to mainstream the whole process. Because the original version is that you were in a working movie set that's like set in Egypt, and Brendan Fraser's there, and all the other people, and then obviously Imhotep comes to life. They want to eliminate all of that and make it more like the Hollywood or the Singapore version, where you're just walking right in. So, including myself, I'm not happy if you cut the end of that ride with the Brendan Fraser.
Yeah,
I would have enjoyed this a lot more if I had my cup of coffee.
Yeah.
But I understand when people, but it doesn't make sense. If you don't, it's like, but it makes sense to me. But then I realized, you know what? It makes sense to me because I've gone on that ride over the last 20 years. I've done a video about it.
Yeah.
I know everything about it. That's why it makes me mad if it goes away. But if you're a first time goer, like, Brendan Fraser, why does he want a cup of coffee? What's going on? They won't realize it because you work your way through the queue, and by the time you get to where the temple is, where the tomb, there's no TV sets, there's no, queue videos playing. So it's harder for people to pick it up. So I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. I haven't ridden the one in Orlando, but I've heard from so many people who've ridden both that one and the one over here in Hollywood that one, they just love it so much more. And that little ending, video thing, also reminiscent, obviously, of the one with Will Smith over at Men in Black. And it's just like they had like an old format where they would put the star at the, throughout the ride and then at the very end. And I don't want them to miss that. Like, I've even made jokes about the cup of coffee, and I haven't even seen the cup of coffee thing, because over here, you're right. You just get in, you go through it, and it's done. There's no, like, fake out ending or anything. It's just like, you're done. Welcome back. Like, which is fine, but it's not the same.
No, it's not. But that goes into, like we said, about, like, different versions of rides.
Yeah.
It can go two ways.
Yeah, right.
So, like, the Hollywood version of the three parks that have it, no offense to anybody, that is the worst version of the three rides. Like, you have the original, which is Orlando, Hollywood, which lacks a lot of what Orlando has, and then the Singapore version, which takes everything Orlando has, and since it's like 5, 6, 8 years later, they were able to upgrade it, kind of like the Indiana Jones versions between Disneyland and Tokyo Disney Sea.
Oh, cool. Sweet.
So it's things like that some changes are good, some changes are bad. And even the case of like, okay, I understand the tweaks, but as a diehard fan of that attraction, don't change it.
Yeah.
Leave it. Or at least make a subtle reference to it somewhere else. So I go, yeah, it's still here. It's not the same, but at least they kept it in mind.
Yeah, totally. Man, it's so cool to hear about that in Singapore, because it's just like, it's like there is your 1-to-1 kind of comparison with Indiana Jones and stuff. And also, like, I still think it's funny that in Tokyo Disney Sea, they were like, oh, there are multiple Indiana Jones attractions over all your parks. Well, we'll take both of them and we'll just have both, like, as opposed to be like, you should have one or the other. It's like, we'll do both. Like, it seems like in some of those Asia parks, they just like take just the best stuff and updated as much as possible. And I just wish we could do that with some of the attractions here. They just be like, shut it down for like 8 months and like really just vamp it up, so that way for the next decade you'd be like, wow, this thing is just killer. Like, oh my gosh. That's it's weird. It's so strange, but it's nice to talk to somebody who understands it, like you do. But yeah, so every time I'm at the end of Mummy here, I want there to be Brendan Fraser, but there's no Brendan Fraser.
Just close your eyes and say the line, and that's as close as you can have.
Exactly. Actually, I think we talked about this in the past, but like your video helped me get through that, because there is a portion of it, which again I won't spoil for anybody, but near the very end, which goes on a lot longer than I think it should. And I'm like counting in my brain like the information you give out in your video and like the audio cues and everything, and I'm like, all right, it's not that much longer, it's almost done. I'm like, here we go, okay, we're done, thank you. And man, I love the idea of Mummy attractions. I'm curious to see where that franchise goes, and it's still in the parks, and eventually people are going to be like, there are going to be kids probably now who are like, what is this based on? You're like, well, it's a reboot of a really old film.
It's a reboot of a reboot of a reboot from the 1932 version of the attraction. Yeah. And the irony is that with the Epic Universe, it's rumored that one of those portions of the park are going to be dedicated to Universal Monsters, meaning that the original 1932 Mummy might have his own attraction or be part of its own attraction, while its reboot of the 1999, whenever it came out, is still in Universal Studios Florida, while I don't even know what year this Mummy reboot came out. Was it 2018, 2017?
Yeah, it wasn't long ago.
While that reboot sucked, so it's nowhere to be found in either of the parks. It's very weird.
Yeah, that is strange. Which, that kind of segues me perfectly into talking a little bit more about Epic Universe. We've been talking about, portions of it now. One thing I found that's super interesting, and I think is super intelligent by them as, park creators, is that with Disney, with Star Wars and stuff, it's pretty much localized in one park, right? For the most part. But with Diagon Alley and kind of, you go to Universal Studios, you got to take the train to get over to Hogwarts. It's like you're going to school. I think that's brilliant. And now getting potentially the Fantastic Beasts stuff in Epic Universe kind of makes it so you have to go to all three if you want the full experience. What do you think about kind of separating it out that way? Is that something you're like, oh, that's a great idea? Or you're like, I'm not really super invested in Harry Potter stuff?
I've never been the biggest fan of Potter. Come at me, I guess. I don't know if I'm going to piss off anybody with that. I've seen the movies. I've read like 3 of the books when I was a kid. My sister was the bigger Potter fan, so she had the books, she watched the movies, she had all the, merchandise and whatnot. So in the case of like that type of fan, it's not the worst idea to separate it between the parks, because no matter what, as a diehard Potter fan, you're going to show up.
Yeah.
And then, oh, okay, you're here at Hogsmeade, go take a look at the rest of the park, maybe you'll find something else. Or, if you're a diehard fan and you don't give a damn about anything else, you're still going to either of those parks because it's Potter. It's the only place you can go to something like that, As a fan, I don't really like that idea, but I can understand that too much of something in a theme park might be a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I always go back to Disney, even as a kid. If I'm on vacation for a week, I hated the fact that I would have to dedicate 3 or 4 days of my trip to go to Disney theme parks, because I want to go on Expedition Everest. My folks ain't bouncing from one park to go to Animal Kingdom for one ride. You're dedicating your whole day there,
Yeah, totally.
So, anything else like Test Track, Space Mountain, Tower of Terror. I've always, even as a kid, from that mindset, I'm like, I'm only here and I want to do everything. I have to dedicate that much time, and I'm not really a big fan of everything. It goes that way. Now, as an adult, I can understand why they do it, because, okay, we need a reason to draw you into the park, and then another reason for you to buy that 3-day, 3-park ticket, so you have Potter here, there, and then also there. So, it goes without saying, it is a business decision at the end of the day, but also, if you put everything in one park, I feel like then oversaturated, kind of kills the mood, and you just go, ugh. like half of this park, like let's just say Islands of Adventure got everything right.
Hmm.
Then you're gonna go half of this park is Potter.
Yeah.
You might bring in the Potter fans. You might alienate everybody else.
Yeah,
So
totally.
you always got to find that blend of like how much is too much and how much is not enough.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're gonna get, I think it's Paris from the Fantastic Beast movies. I haven't seen them.
I think so, yeah.
So I mean, it's not a bad idea. I mean, the only problem I have, that's a rumor. We
Yeah.
don't know anything besides Super Nintendo Land right now officially about the Epic Universe. There's been rumors about we're getting the monsters, like I just mentioned, How to
Hmm.
Train Your Dragon. You're getting Potter. I'll be honest with you, Jimmy. I'm not very confident in Epic Universe. I unless they start announcing stuff, they go, okay, that's pretty cool. Those four things I just mentioned, outside of, Nintendo, it's not that strong of a lineup. I always thought, if this goes back to connecting the beginning of this podcast, why not do Jurassic World at Epic Universe and keep Jurassic Park at Islands of Adventure?
Mm.
Two different types of attractions, different franchises. Technically,
Hmm.
it's something for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I see. How to Train Your Dragon. They did 3 movies. I don't think they're doing anything else. Why are we finally getting a themed land? Like, when was the last movie? Like 3-4 years ago?
I think so, and they've had like, I don't know if it's been since or in between, but they've had like other TV shows. Not that means it's like super duper popular, but you're right. It's an interesting choice if that's the case.
Yeah, that's like if they decided to take Far Far Away Land from Shrek
Oh my gosh.
at Beijing, not Beijing, at Singapore, and they brought it to this place. You go, why? Like, I understand Shrek was popular, but kind of past his due. So
Yeah.
I don't. I'm all excited for a brand new park. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I just feel like right now, until there's more details, where maybe there's some changes, where they pull something out of their hat, every little bit of information that's been leaked or rumored so far, on a scale of 1 to 5, I'm like a 2.5. I'm excited for Nintendo. Everything else, I'm like, I'll still go to the park, but I'm still probably going to dedicate day one, like in my typical trip, to like Islands of Adventure or Universal Studios Florida, not the Epic Universe. Unless there's like something that blows me away that we don't know about yet.
Yeah, you make a great point there, because, and I appreciate your honesty, Jack. I always do. So thank you. You're right. There's interesting, like, there isn't like the big hook, at least from the rumors we've heard so far. Whereas, like, I'm trying to think of what in that Universal pantheon, and outside of it, because obviously Warner Brothers, like the Harry Potter stuff, right there. Which, side note, it's very interesting to drive over here, kind of near Hollywood, or Burbank, and see Warner Brothers, like the movie lot, the TV lot, and then see Hogwarts Castle in the distance at a different place, like, because it's like, oh, they made Harry Potter, but they licensed that out to Universal, so it's like, it's almost like Warner Brothers, like, they haven't made a park, they just kind of team up with other people.
Yeah, I mean, it's so, and like this goes to what we just talked about, that park that is Universal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo, not owned by Universal.
Yeah.
Fantastic Beasts, not owned by Universal. So you have the Monsters and How to Train Your Dragon, which is technically owned by Universal, not created by them technically to begin with, before they purchased DreamWorks.
Yeah, right.
So, and I know they don't have many major franchises not featured at any of their parks yet, right? For the most part, everything is represented from Universal Pictures, some shape or some form, at their parks. Yeah. I know they need a new park to draw people in, and that's why Super Nintendo Land will be the pinnacle of that. That's your draw. But I just don't feel confident outside that lineup, and they got to either add something, and I hate to say it. Oh, well, Donkey Kong Country is supposedly all part of it. So they go, oh, we'll give you Pokemon. Oh, we'll give you Zelda. Mm-hmm. It's not Universal. Now, again, is that the end of the world? No. But I think of it as one of the more diehard Universal fans. Your Universal parks do not have your own franchises represented in them. They are not the draw.
Yeah.
That is a problem. Now, that you can't blame the people who work in the theme parks who are creating the theme park rides, because that's not their fault. That's like Universal Pictures not having a major hit or something on their hands,
Sure.
And again, that's things they can't control. some people care about that, like me. Other people, they don't give a shit. It's like, oh, it's just Mario. Just deal with it. Who cares?
Yeah, right.
That's what we're going for. So, it goes down to it. I'll still go to the park. I know we're still way off. Things can change between now and then. But I still feel like I saw the rumors, saw what they've released, read what's out there. I'm like, I might be the old man yelling at clouds now, but I'm just like, I'll go, but it's not like day one. I have to be there. It's like, no, I have no intentions of being there day one. I'll get there when I get there as part of my usual trip during the summer.
Yeah, I think that's smart. I think that's the same mentality I want to have, even though I live closer to these parks now. Like, the day one just kerfuffle, and it's never really a good representation of what it's going to be like. Your experience will be very different than that first day when everybody's crammed in there, just like trying to get to whatever it is. But I know, Jack, I know what you love, and I know what would get you in to Epic Universe. One word for you, buddy: family. Let's do it. Let's just make a big old, like, Fast and Furious land. And then if they, like, here's where the positive spin comes in. If they made it, and they made some sort of crazy kind of, like, not Test Track, because Test Track has that, like, Disney's got that technology, but something along the lines, and then you could change up Supercharged into anything else. Whatever you want to do it.
That is a dream. Or in my case, that is a nightmare if that ever happens. I mean, you do bring up a good point. You could bring Fast and Furious. You could do something completely different than Supercharged, and guess what? Then I won't hate it as much.
Yeah.
but it just goes to show you that they're not confident. Universal's not confident in their own franchises.
Yeah.
To be able to be like, listen, we're going to draw people in, because that was, I mentioned, that was a problem in the mid 2000s. Everything they were putting out there was not from their own IPs, was not drawing people to the parks. Mm-hmm. And that's why they went to Potter. And when Potter blew up, they realized, you know what? We got Potter. Let's bring in Transformers. We're going to do Nintendo. Mm-hmm. What's the last? Well, Supercharged, obviously. Even like things like King Kong. Yeah. And like King Kong, yes, King Kong, if you know King Kong, is a staple. But it's based off the last one, Skull Island, Reign of Kong. It's based off the 2005 movie of an attraction, I think, that opened in like 2015, 2016.
Yeah, something like that.
It's like weird that it's Kong, but it's based off the 10-year-old movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, sure. So it goes to it. Listen, Universal isn't the only people who have that problem, right? Disney kind of is in that same boat where, like, lately it's been, we got Star Wars, we got Pixar, we got Marvel. Okay, what else do you got? No, that's it. That's all we have for the parks. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, which is crazy, too, because, like, obviously those are big things, but they quickly deteriorate, I think, or as far as, like, you go and you see it and you're like, okay, you know what's there. It's not the idea of it anymore, where you're like, whoa, they got Star Wars. They could do so much now, even though we've had Star Tours in the past, but like to make a full dark ride or to make a new simulator or whatever else. And Pandora worked out for them in the long run, because originally they didn't own that stuff. They didn't own Avatar. And when they bought Fox, then it's like, oh yeah, now it's part of it now at Animal Kingdom.
Part of the Disney universe. Watch Avatar on Disney Plus, please.
Yeah. and also I think that was just like, even before they bought Fox, they're like, all right, there's going to be 4 sequels to this. So, like, if we make a portion of one of our parks based on this, we will have upticks, when these movies come out, regardless, just because people be like, oh, yeah, that movie came out. That they made another one? Oh, yeah, we should go to that thing in Animal Kingdom, right?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not, people are going to think I'm hating on Disney, but it's like, I'm just not impressed with anything they've done.
Really?
In, like, the last couple of years. I don't know if it's because it's kind of like, it's the same type of things. There's a lot of things I can go on about Disney. The fact they announce attractions way too early, they take way too long to be built, or that they're just basically, oh, we're bringing this from this park to this park. I know that Universal does it, but like the Ratatouille ride, I believe was announced in like 2018 for Epcot, and it took them this long. I know the pandemic. I give them some credit for that, but it's like, I said it when they did the D23 on Twitter, the last one over I think September or something. Give me something that is not based on any of those IPs I just mentioned. Don't give me something Marvel, Pixar, Star Wars, nothing. And I said, even give me an update on that Mary Poppins ride that you announced.
Oh, yeah.
And we got nothing. And you know what the best part was? Oh, Tron, yeah, here's a concept art. It's coming soon. When? Oh, it's coming soon. That's my problem with Disney. You announce something, there's a lot of hype for it. It takes 3 to 4 years to get taken care of, and then by the time it opens, I just feel like, it's here. But like, I don't know. I don't like what they've been doing lately. The whole thing with the Disneyland APs, like, oh, we're not doing annual passes anymore. We're doing something else. The tier pricing,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous. And then I've tried to look into it. I still don't understand Genie Plus. I get the concept, I really do.
Yeah.
But I feel like everything they've been doing lately, and this is not to shit on them, it's all about getting your money. It's not. It's like, oh, tier pricing. You want to come at the busiest time? Okay, you got to pay the most. You want to use fast? It's not Fast Pass anymore, obviously. You want a Lightning Lane? You got to go on an app, book it, and pay for it. It's like, I'm at the park. I don't want to look at my phone to be able to book something.
Yeah.
Just let me. It's a lot of things that go into it, and and I've seen it on Twitter, and people have told me, like, even the 50th anniversary celebration, that some people said they spent more time and effort on Disney Plus Day than it seems they did for the 50th anniversary. Just here's an overlay, bunch of gold statues, and we have a year to kind of just spread it out and say, oh, look what we did. So I don't know. Again, I like Disney. I just don't like the decisions they've been making the last couple of years. It just feels like, wait, make an announcement, make sure you have a 2-year window frame, and boom, when it comes out, people will be excited for it. Like, do you feel anything like for the Galactic Cruiser? Hotel immersiveness? The fact that it's $4,000 maybe for like 3 nights?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was something. It was a lot. It was like that, or like $6,000 for like, it was like 2 nights, 3 days, or something like that. I'm a big Star Wars guy, and like, I feel like, Jack, we do like the Universal Disney show where I'm like the Disney shill. I'll be like, yeah, Disney's great. But when they announced that and they showed that off, I was thinking, first off, it's just something I can't afford in good conscience. Like, it's not going to happen. And I get where they're trying to do these like hyper immersive experiences for people who don't do the cruise. Like if you want to go do a cruise, it's like a cruise, but it's not going anywhere. But I don't know. As even a big Star Wars guy, I would love to see it, but it's just so expensive. And even if it weren't, I think one of my things is when I'm on vacation too, these stack up. And when you're paying for something like that, you're going to want to stay at that hotel the whole time, right? So it's got to be really compelling. Otherwise, you're going to want to go to the theme parks, and you're kind of double dipping even more so, where you're like, well, I'm leaving this thing I paid so much money for to go somewhere else.
Exactly.
Right,
you don't
now.
get the full experience. You have to dedicate, from what it seems, you have to get that experience. You can't go to a theme park those 3 days.
Yeah.
4 days, whatever it is. You are there the entire time. And I'm not saying that's prison. I'm not saying that's torture, because we don't know what it looks like yet.
Yeah, right.
But you have, like you said, it is going to, accommodate the most die-hard Star Wars fans, Disney fans, whatever type of fan they're looking for. The question is, do you have enough of those people to keep that thing going? Until you have to cut prices, make it different, something along those lines.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that if some listener right now has a lot of money and wants to bring both of us there, that we would say no. Well, we'd love to try it out. I'm sure I'd check.
It's not even. Listen, it's not even that. If I technically wanted to, I could do it, and then oh, you know what? Business expense. I don't even want that on my. When IRS is looking at my stuff, going, man, he spent this much on that. I feel bad for him. It's a write-off, but still, it's not good.
Yeah,
what a waste of money.
I'm curious to see I'm sure they'll invite the vloggers over, and someone who's been doing that a little bit more so myself lately. I would just be so interested to know like what for a day they would probably bring them in and be like, this is like, here you go, you can see it, right?
Yeah, like, I mean, I think they can impress, but from the video they showed off and everything we've seen so far, I'm not saying it's going to be a disaster. It'll make them money. Don't be surprised in like 5 to 6 years. We're closing it and we're going to retheme it to something else. I just, those types
Yeah.
of experiences, the fact they're building brand new hotel for this thing, I feel like you're eating a lot of money to make something that you have to charge a lot of money to even break even.
Yeah.
So it's just like I said, I haven't been to a Disney park probably in about 10 years
Mm.
just because it's a lot of things. Like I said, if I want to do everything, I got to dedicate 4 out of my 7 days probably because I don't really, it's not like Universal where I could take a train to go between both parks or even if I want to walk, it's
Sure.
about 10, 15 minutes. You got to get in a car. You got to go back to the parking lot. You got to drive to the other park. And then you got to hope you have enough time if the park's open until 8 or 9 o'clock because they always have different hours too.
Yeah.
So it's, again, I'll go if I have to go. I'll probably, whenever that is, I'll probably go to Magic Kingdom because it's the Magic Kingdom. I'll probably go back to Hollywood Studios because I want to experience Galaxy's Edge and see what's up.
Mhm.
If I don't go to Animal Kingdom, not the end of the world. I don't go to Epcot, it's not the end of the world,
Sure.
So I don't know. Maybe because, like I said, for the longest time I've gone to Universal. That's the only parks my parents would take me to. So it was like, okay, you tend to just home in on what you're comfortable in, what you know. But I always just feel like, and I've heard it from people, it seems more work to be able to get that full Disney experience than to actually enjoy a vacation.
Yeah, I grew up. I was very lucky to get to go to Walt Disney World a bunch, and it's not a typical vacation. It's you're out there. At least for me, the way I take it. And some people go and they budget in days that are just hotel days, and they hang out by the pool and stuff. And I respect them so much. But there's been like this thing ingrained in me that like if I were doing that, all I could think the whole time is like I could be in the parks right now doing this and this and this and this. But there's a lot of planning, and it is a lot of I'm not manual labor, but walking,
no.
right?
I had a friend who went down there, I think 2 or 3 times with his family, and they had an itinerary on what they were doing at the Disney parks, and I'm like, what? Like, yeah, we have to do this by this time, eat this time, and I'm just like, and I said, why are your folks doing that? He goes, because they want to experience everything, and according to Disney, this is the only way you can. And I know the app has that now, where something has that, like, oh yeah, you can, we'll help you book your day and do all this stuff. I get that; that's convenient. But then I feel like Disney now makes you, if you want that full experience, not go, you know what? I get the Space Mountain, I get the Haunted Mansion, I didn't get the Pirate. Who cares? It's like, no, this is how you have to do it if you want to get to everything.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I go on vacation to enjoy myself. I don't go, oh man, it's 6:36. I gotta be at Splash Mountain in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like I go on vacation to get away from stress. I don't go on vacation to be stressed.
Sure.
So yeah, but I mean that's just how I see it. Maybe that's just how my vacation experience have been. But like I said, I see these announcements. I see all these things they're doing. Even the biggest thing I think they're starting to bring them back are the trams. The trams from the parking lots to the parks. They had this huge touting. We're bringing everything back. Churros back. This back.
Mm-hmm.
And no mention of trams coming back, which are kind of like a necessity for some people.
Yeah, especially here at Disneyland, it's interesting because what I've heard is that they were not able to staff the trams one way or another at Walt Disney World or here at Disneyland. And the Disneyland tram, which is something I haven't really experienced because in the past when I would come, I was lucky I got to stay on property, or I park at the one parking lot that has a bus that takes you over there. But the typical parking structures over here have like a tram that most people like. That's part of the Disneyland experience. It's like you take the tram in, and it's like the first ride of the day. Now that is just like you have to walk that distance, like to get to the gate. And for a lot of people, who it is difficult, to do that, or it's just like another thing you didn't think about. And then at the end of the day, you're like, oh yeah, I got to walk like this distance back to my car.
You're already burning yourself out walking into the park before you actually walk around the park.
Yeah, a little bit.
so like, and again, they're probably all still gearing up. Everybody's getting ready to go back to these parks, and they want to get back to normal.
Yeah.
So I get it. They're not fully equipped. They're not fully staffed. They need to rev things up. It's not like a well-oiled machine like it was before the pandemic, where everything was constantly going 365.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's, to me, it just seems that Disney has moved away attraction-wise, just from unique things that like stood out, to we have all these franchises we spent a lot of money to acquire. Let's just plug them everywhere in the park. But I say all these things, they're still hitting record numbers.
Yeah.
So somebody who's playing their vacation to Disney is not going to give a damn about what I just said. Like, why? My kid still wants to go see Elsa. They want to go to Frozen, so we got to go.
Yeah.
So it again, it's different strokes. You have those, people like myself on Twitter, when we're not happy with something, with a theme park decision, we'll make it known. And then you have the people who don't have Twitter, only have something like Facebook or Instagram, don't care about this, and they just want to go post all their photos and go to the parks and have a good time. So, again, you and I, we know these parks. We go to these parks. We follow these parks. We're all in that community.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different beast. So while we might complain about something, Disney's probably just like, while they're counting all their $100 bills.
Yeah. You make it such a good point about the original stuff, and I was thinking, like, Disney is more so known for that than Universal, but that's because Universal is built off of their movie franchises, and that's what they make attractions based on, or have been in the past. And Disney, like Pirates of the Caribbean and Haunted Mansion, before they were films, especially Pirates, like a big film series, it was an attraction that opened up in the late 60s. And I would love to see more of that. I get why they don't do it. Like, I understand why, like, a completely brand new intellectual property that's only in the parks is more of a risk, right, than something that has been kind of like a little more tried and true outside of the parks. However, if you can pull it off, which Disney has done many times in the past, then you make something that is going to bring people back again and again. And I really hope we see more of that going forward, especially with Disneyland kind of doing their expansion thing, which isn't a new park, but might have rides and stuff. I'm not exactly sure. Did you see this thing a little while ago? They showed like the expansion plan for Disneyland, even though it's
was it supposed to like connect it to the Disneyland Hotel?
Yes, it's like all kind of interconnected there between that and Paradise Pier. I
mean, it's a cool concept if it does get approved.
Yeah, right.
You meant, but I mean, I don't. I mean, any way they could expand, because they really don't have the space, I think. I mean, I know what they had to do to get Star Wars Galaxy's Edge done.
Yeah, right.
Over there, but everything else, I don't know where they have land, because obviously all that land's across the street at Disney's California Adventure.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned, like, go back to IPs. Do you think they're too big to fail now, that they can take that risk? Like, listen, people are still showing up to the park, so if you build something that's a brand new non-IP, even if it's not the most popular ride, people are still going to show up to the park. I don't think at this point, unless they really start messing up over the next 5 years, people go, okay, it's still Disney, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
It's like, I just feel like at that point, it's like you could take a risk and make a Mary Poppins attraction. People who are going to these parks probably are still going to go to Epcot for something else. You can do Guardians of the Galaxy and then put Mary Poppins. One of them's going to draw people, and then guess what? You have another one that might be an underdog. Might be, oh, that's an underrated attraction. I didn't know about it. Or, hey, why isn't this attraction talked about more?
Yeah.
Someone, I brought it up, and I think someone confirmed it for me. Like, the last original attraction at Walt Disney World is, like, Expedition Everest.
Oh, yeah.
And that's 2003. I could be wrong. There might be something else. I'm talking, like, e-ticket attraction, not based on an IP.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody pointed, well, Mary Poppins is a movie, but it's not a franchise. I mean, it did have the movie and its sequel, I think.
Sure.
So now I'm putting my foot in my mouth. But it's Mary Poppins. It's not Marvel. It's not Pixar. It's not Star Wars. It's nothing along those lines. Where it's like you mentioned it, and I've covered a decent amount of these attractions. Test Track. Not based on an IP, eventually got changed, right? Alien Encounter. Not based, well, it was supposed to be based on Alien, that didn't happen. Still, original, Expedition Everest. And then you go back to all those attractions you mentioned back when Disneyland opened. You got things like the Matterhorn, Pirates of the Caribbean. Um,
Hmm.
what else? I'm totally forgetting something off the top of my head. The Haunted Mansion. There it
Hmm.
is.
Yeah, right.
Space Mountain.
Yep.
4 classics that eventually got turned in some shape or form to a media franchise. Again, times have changed. You don't rely on original ideas anymore. You rely on what sells, what makes the most money. But I feel like you do too much of that, and it just eventually, like a place like Disney, not to say anything would ever happen, but if it's all based on their movies that are popular at the box office, it feels like it loses its magic.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I was trying to think what you're talking about here. Even abroad, I think one of the reasons they had to do something a little bit different, speaking of Haunted Mansion, is with Mystic Manor because of the sensibilities of how ghosts are taken over. I think it's in mainland China. And that's its own thing, but people like still really enjoy it. And it's like, that's the type of stuff I'm talking about. Like, that's what I want to see more of.
Yeah, like that is different. Where even the it's not was it the one that's in Paris. It's not the Haunted Mansion. What is it?
Oh, Phantom Manor.
Phantom Manor.
Yeah.
Similar, different.
Yeah.
Completely different, unique experience in itself.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like it is compared to the original Haunted Mansion.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's like you could do something different that doesn't need to be based on your #1 hit on the box office.
Yeah.
And it still might be the reason people show up to your park. Tokyo Disney Sea is the best example of that with everything they offer. You said Mystic Manor. Yeah. You got, Journey to the Center of the Earth. I know you got the Indiana Jones stuff, but everything that park doesn't feel like their version of Soarin'. The whole thing they built, it's kind of the same ride, but its storyline is different than anything else done in any of the other Disney parks. I don't know. I feel like if you do something unique enough, it will draw people in.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, go. I'm sorry.
Oh no, continue, please.
And no, we'll finish and then I'll go back because I mentioned all the problems I have with Disney. There was something I didn't mention, so.
Okay. What I was just gonna say is I know someone's gonna like listen to this and be like, actually, Mystic Manor. I think it's Shanghai, and they actually have Haunted Mansion in Tokyo, Disneyland, but it's in Fantasyland, which is super strange. Like Haunted Mansion,
the only place I could fit it.
Right, and it's like Haunted Mansion too. I think it's like one of the only attractions that's like almost in in a bunch of different lands, no matter which one you go to, except for like Tomorrowland. Like Phantom Manor, for example, it's in Frontierland, but it's so cool that it's in Frontierland because like a creepy old house in the Wild Wild West. It's like, yes, that kind of stuff I'm talking about. I know they could do it, and I hope they do it. But I think maybe they were just like, we got to do Star Wars right now. We got to do Marvel stuff right now because we made those acquisitions. But I still hope there's a time and place where they can be like, and we made this completely brand new thing that has nothing to do with anything you've ever heard of before, and trust us, you're gonna love it. Like that's what I want to see more of.
I would agree with you. At least you could do, like you said, the big franchises that do that. But I still think you need that mix.
Yeah,
you gotta have something. You can't rely on everything you have because eventually it won't work. You mentioned it earlier, and this goes into talking about Marvel and Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
The tiered openings, the Phase 1 and Phase. What is this? That is probably the most irked thing I've had about that. You're opening a brand new land, and your main attractions in both of those lands are not ready.
Yeah.
If you did that in any type of medium, here's the iPhone, but iOS ain't ready for 3 months. What? It's like, it wouldn't work,
Yeah.
I get it. It's a way to get people in, but I feel like if people don't do their research, you're also suckering them into the park. So it's like, oh, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is open, but Rise of the Resistance isn't ready. You get the Millennium Falcon ride in the entire land, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what that means to me? That means you're forcing somebody to come back twice to do it. And like I said, as somebody who's not in Florida, in New York, I'm not flying down twice in a matter of 6 months to experience a land. I'll wait until the 6 months.
Yeah, right.
Now I know what it is. It's for the people who live in the area to get them in the park. And then obviously the tiered opening is the second one when everything is open. It's for everybody else who's not in the area to come visit. I just don't like that idea. I feel like it's everything or nothing. Because imagine Potter opened. Dragon Challenge is open. Flight of Hippogriff is open. Oh, Forbidden Journey? Nah, you gotta wait 6 months.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. Yeah, because it's like in the premier building too. Like you look at Hogwarts Castle, like I want to go in there, and be like, you can't.
Yeah, I'm just saying that. It's like I understand why they do it, but I
Yeah.
feel like it's a scummy move because if you don't, there were probably people who went down there thinking everything was open to find out no, and like yeah, you got to come back like 6 months from now, 3 months from now, whatever it was to come, and then they did like you said in Disneyland, well not Disneyland, Disney California Adventure, where we opened up the Spider-Man ride. And, you already have Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. That Avengers ride, maybe 2 years from now. It's like...
Yeah. It feels weird to, like, especially that building, too, because, like, I was just thinking about, like, it's, like, kind of like a fourth of that whole land, and I don't know exactly, but that's how it feels, anyway, when you're walking through it, and there's just this big building, and they do shows and stuff, and there's a Quinjet on top of it, but, like, all I can think is, like, I wonder what's going to be in there, and I don't know if they've confirmed any information about it, but I don't think it's a Rise of the Resistance situation where it's like a fully immersive dark ride. I'm guessing it's a simulator to some degree because of the space, but I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe there's more to it than I don't know.
You can't hold me to it because I don't remember. I think it was like 2 years ago when they were doing all these announcements. I thought they said maybe it's like a VR simulator situation.
Okay, yeah,
I
like
might be
Quinjet.
wrong.
Yeah,
but it's like Quinjet, where supposedly you're fighting along the Avengers. I'm like, I don't know how that's going to happen. It's
Yeah.
It's an interesting concept. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah,
but I just don't like the fact we opened this land and the e-ticket attraction that's supposed to draw people in won't be ready for a while. It's like, I mean, I don't like to go off track, but it's like Halo Infinite. Oh, everything, single player is available, but a bunch of the features won't be out for 6 months.
yeah.
It's like, why am I going to spend my money now? I'll wait until it's done. And even when it's done, the hype and all the excitement, you might not want to go. You might not want to buy the game. You might not want to go to the park.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, something like that. I feel like I know they're doing it to appease both sides, the people who live there and the people who don't. I'm like, I just feel like that's more work. And again, I just feel like they'll probably sucker people into forcing them to come back a second time when they shouldn't have been doing that in the first place.
Sure.
Where it's like I said, Super Nintendo Land opens, but Mario Kart's not ready. It's like, you wouldn't go. I wouldn't go.
Yeah, I'd want to wait till it's all done. Yeah, I guess personally, even though, like, I guess now I kind of live in a weird situation where, like, I could go twice and it wouldn't be, like, I wouldn't have to fly and get hotel accommodations and things like that.
It's like I said, it's different. That's why if they did a tiered opening, since you're close by, it would make sense. But like,
Sure.
as somebody like myself who goes,
Exactly.
you're saying it's open, it's ready to go in January, but then the ride won't be open until June. You're going, yeah, what's the point then?
Right.
I don't know. It's, to me, something about that just doesn't sit right. That's like if I released a video, oh well, half of it's ready, the other half will come in like 6 months. Like, wait, what? Why not just do everything? Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
Sure.
why give somebody a taste of it? Give them everything. Don't just give them the appetizer. Give them the entree and the dessert as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you make a good point. That's interesting. I hear you. The only thing for me now, I'm just like, you know what? At least that, like, it's interesting to know how many people get employed to be part of these things, and then there's like some people who just have to constantly field questions about a thing that's not open. And they're just like, yeah, you can't go in here. Like,
those are the unsung heroes of
Yes.
theme parks.
I love all the cast members. Oh my gosh.
Why isn't Harry Potter here, sir? This is Disney, not Universal.
Yeah.
Or something along those lines. Or
Yeah, where's
it's like,
Hogwarts? You're like, I just
where is Hogwarts?
never heard of it.
Where it's like, I thought the Avengers are here. Well, no, technically not in Florida. It's a whole story.
Yeah,
You have to go to Islands of Adventure. It's
exactly.
like, I wanted to see Spider-Man. Well, then go to California. That's all I can tell you if you want to see him in a Disney park.
One of the funniest things I've heard, because they oftentimes don't reference the other parks, but there was a performer on the boardwalk over at Walt Disney World, and like some fireworks went off when he wasn't expecting over by Epcot. I think they were doing some tests or something. And he like dropped to the ground. He's like, "It's Universal, they're attacking!" And
Oh my God.
I was like, that is so funny because like obviously they know each other. Like, and they joke about like one of my other favorite jokes too about like Universal, a little barb at Disney is like they had a walk through a haunted house. Like they do obviously horror nights, but it was about like Yetis and stuff. and they said at least our Yetis move. And I was like, oh, like that kind of stuff. And I get it. Like, it's like fun, like those kind of quick little barbs, that's fine. But back to Avengers Campus, because we're going to talk about that. I've gotten to go there a few times. I still haven't eaten at the Pym's Test Kitchen. I saw the Doctor Strange show, which, side note, the guy they've got playing Strange, or the guy that I saw that night during this whole thing, like, could have filled in for Benedict Cumberbatch. He was that convincing. I was like, this guy's really good. I was like, this is cool. That show itself, it's a nice little touch on that park or that part of the park, because it's something you're not really getting too much of right now. But from what you've seen, Jack, from all that stuff, Avengers Campus, Quinjet ride's still not going, and we'll take Guardians of the Galaxy out of it because it's like, it's there, but it was there before. What do you think so far of, like, especially Web Slingers?
I mean, I will say this, maybe because it's just, we already had a standard with, like, Marvel Superhero Island at Islands of Adventure.
Sure.
I get what they're doing. It just, I mean, they could do so much more. They should be doing so much more with Marvel at the parks they're allowed to do. I know, like, the Guardians of the Galaxy thing, but that was a re-theme from this, it's already existing attraction. The Spider-Man ride, I've watched the video. I'm not impressed. It's like Toy Story Mania.
Yeah.
It's like any other type of shooter ride they've had at a Disney park. And again, it's cool that it's kind of set within the MCU universe in some shape or form. It's cool they have Tom Holland back to play the role of Peter Parker and all that stuff. But I'm not impressed. I think the bigger story from that ride was, oh, did you know you could buy your own web slinger and then use it on the ride? It's like DLC. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, that was interesting.
Again, if you're going just for the park, fine. But the fact that they were kind of pushing that was like, no, thank you. I shouldn't have to buy something that might make the theme park ride experience better or more unique. Mm-hmm. I'm already paying you a lot to be in the park. Why am I going to spend like another $30 to get something for the web slinger itself? Yeah. I mean, I think it's a nice ride, but like, Jimmy, it's Spider-Man, man.
I know.
How come he ain't the e-ticket attraction? I know. Yeah. I know that they can't do a simulator ride like Universal. That's in the contract they have agreed between the two. You could do something. There got to be something you can do that doesn't infringe the rights on that,
Yeah, and I hate to compare it 1-to-1, but man, like, even to Transformers, if you're going to compare the old Spider-Man ride, that one at Islands of Adventure is just still so good. And it's just like, it's frustrating to me because you're right, Spider-Man should be the e-ticket. The problem is now that, like, the Avengers have become so big and kind of dwarfed him, and when you put him on a team with Avengers, Spider-Man's still great, but you're like, I think there's that, like, we need to put more focus on, like, Hulk or Thor or Iron Man, who can do things that, like, Spidey just can't do. And so he's not as I don't know, wanted as he once was, even though I think he's still obviously Marvel's most popular character. It's just such a weird place to put him in, right?
Here is your problem. This goes into that whole two-tiered BS. By the time the Avengers ride opens up, think of it this way. Captain America, Iron Man, they ain't around anymore in that MCU universe. They're still popular characters, don't get me wrong. By the time that ride opens, it'll be a couple of years since they're technically phased out of the MCU. Thor's popular. Hulk, because I guess of contract limitations and all that stuff that I don't know. He's always a side character. He doesn't have his own movie. Mm-hmm. Here's your issue. Not to say they won't be popular. By the time that ride opens, is there going to be any hype behind it? And guess what? They are not going to get those actors and actresses to play those characters. That is also going to hurt them. Because it's going to cost them millions of dollars for that. And again, unless you say it's not canon, it's not kayfabe anymore, how's Tony Stark played by Robert Downey Jr. in a ride? How's Captain America here? All that stuff. So,
yeah,
I get it. Again, I'm being the pessimist, the old man yelling at the clouds. I get it. But I just feel like if they had opened an Avengers ride with the rest of Avengers Campus, they'd be doing so much more right now. And again, maybe they're going to make something completely brand new, state of the art, never seen before, and knock the socks off of me. But the last couple of years, I just don't trust, Disney's track record with the attractions, the time frame they announced, and by the time they open.
Yeah, it's also interesting too, and I remember talking to somebody about this, but I think they talked about with both Batu's or Galaxy's Edges across the states here that they spent like $1 billion altogether, and that this Avengers Campus was a fraction of that. It's much less, and I wonder if that is going to be a frustration moving forward, where you like have people who are as big Marvel fans, or if not bigger than Star Wars, and they look at the love that Star Wars has garnered, and obviously Star Wars has been around, like, at least movie-wise, longer than the Marvel movies have, but they think, like, why didn't they give this type of treatment to, the Avengers, whereas in Epcot, presumably when Cosmic Rewind comes out, like, that's kind of a big deal. Like, that's going to be something that's,
so
coveted.
That comes down to also the fact that they're lucking out, I guess, in some shape or form because of the pandemic, that by the time that ride opens next summer, there's a very good chance the buzz for Volume 3 of Guardians of the Galaxy starts. I don't know when that movie comes out. I don't know if it's next year or the year after. The point is, you could build synergy between the two.
Exactly.
You also mentioned something that's very interesting. If you look at Avengers Campus, they've had Agatha from WandaVision.
Yep.
They've had Loki show up from the... Oh my god, I'm forgetting it. I've seen the goddamn show.
Yeah,
where
Loki.
is he? Where is he from? Though he's been arrested by what?
Oh, the TVA.
TVA.
Yeah.
He's in the jumpsuit.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the Mandalorian? Where's Baby Yoda? Where's all these characters that have not showed up in Galaxy? Like, I don't understand if it's a creative issue or something along those lines. At least they bring people in, people playing these characters, and it's like pretty cool to see it being like, oh, real time. I'm surprised they didn't capitalize on having somebody dress up as a Mandalorian going around with Baby Yoda. That would have been pretty cool. They didn't do that. And I know originally they had all those Star Wars characters, and they have the people going around, stormtroopers, and they interact with the theme park goers, so that's pretty cool. But capitalize on what's popular, man.
Yeah, I think the issue with that you're bringing up, Jack, you make a great point, is that they are so devoted to the lore of the Black Spire Outpost and when it takes place during all of that. And I get it from, like, if you're not really as invested, you'd be like, well, who cares? It's Star Wars, just bring them in there. But I think part of the desire to continue shows like The Mandalorian is that you don't know what happens to those characters, like, 20 or 30 years down the line, which that's when Batu is kind of taking place. But that just falls back to the whole, like, I just kind of wish, like, I get it's like a Star Wars outpost in a very specific point in time, but that's why they get away with it at Marvel, like, or Avengers Campus, because it is part of the MCU, but it's kind of doing its own thing. Like, it's its own beast.
I guess it makes sense. I didn't know that the lore was that constricted.
Oh yeah.
Even if you can't put it there, go put it next to, like, Star Tours.
I was just thinking that too. Yeah, man.
And listen, you say, and I get it because times have changed. I'm like, listen, they used to have Star Wars celebrations, and they had these people dancing dressed up as these characters. So all of a sudden, I'm glad they had to change because I remember seeing like, the Boba Fett doing the dancing and stuff, and that was a meme for a while.
Yeah.
But I guess they said no more of that. Let's actually keep it hardcore. So I guess that would make sense. I didn't know that it actually was confined in that universe, and they want to keep that canon. So that's okay. But I feel like they didn't even have him anywhere in the parks. Like, like Hollywood Studios, you can get away with him by Star Tours. We're being walking around. That's
the funny thing about Grogu, or Baby Yoda as you're calling him. Like, he is so marketable that he is just everywhere, and they don't have to even bring him out because they're like I've seen him on so many shirts. Like, everybody's buying them, or they're making their own.
I bought the whatever high-end animatronic doll.
Oh, really?
Not thousands of dollars. Whatever was like $120. I had to buy that last year for my sister, and I had the hardest time finding that doll.
Yep.
So, and again, you can tell I don't watch The Mandalorian because I call it Baby Yoda. I don't even know the name of the character, so that's on me. But I'm just saying, I saw some stuff in the parks. Why? I know, like you said, they have the limitations. They want to keep it canon. They could have found a way to capitalize on that. I'm just saying, it's different franchises, different rules in place. I get
Yep.
that, but it goes into you're willing to do all of this, but you're not willing to do this. Meet and greet, photo opportunity. That would be a pretty cool thing for Disney to do. But like you said, if the confinements are there and the rules are in place and they can't break them, so be it.
Well, you're making me feel bad for earlier posting a GIF of Darth Vader dancing. But
Nah,
no.
It's not set in the Star Wars universe, so it's not canon. So you're okay.
Hey, right. I would love it though if they did, especially here in Disneyland. They do so many overlays, and I've been working on something for a while. It's something I have been thinking about a lot, especially with Rise of the Resistance. But just that whole land, you could do a throwback and just do throwback. For a couple of months, and you just say, hey, guess what? It's a different time and place, and then you make it so it lines up where, Mando could be walking through the Mandalorian with, Baby Yoda or Grogu, and people would lose it. Like, if you had Darth Vader walking around, you could do that again, and you just have to say, hey, for the next couple of months, it's like a Haunted Mansion holiday. It's going to be, we're jumping back, to the original trilogy or whatever else. Like, you could do that. But right now, they haven't.
People. If you were to do something like that, you'll get some that complain, but the majority of the theme park fans go, finally, we've been waiting for this.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and that's the problem. I think when you take something, and maybe that's why they kind of changed Avengers Campus a little bit. That it doesn't seem like it's like super hyper specific on like a point in time in their canon that they've established. But like with Batuu, it's a good but also kind of restrictive thing where you say it could only happen during this period of time in the sequel trilogy, and you're kind of handcuffed to it for better or worse. And I think there are a lot of people out there who it's so cool to have a crazy immersive Star Wars area, but also there's that like, man, it'd be really cool to see Boba Fett, or something.
Yeah, I mean, in the case of like even going back to Universal, like with Potter, there's not much. It's set in its own confined universe. It's within the movies. There is a time frame, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not super. I mean, you have Hagrid here. Hagrid's in Forbidden Journey. You got Escape from Gringotts, which is set obviously between the last two movies in the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? But it doesn't feel like it's all blended together. But like you said, if Disney is trying to build something canon, storyline wise, something that can integrate down the line with its, Galaxy's Edge and Batuu, that makes sense then. Yeah. But again, this goes back to like you and me are bickering about this. The general theme park goer ain't gonna care. They want to go, where's Baby Yoda? Like I said, where's Baby Yoda?
Right.
I came to the park to see Baby Yoda. And like, well, he's on a t-shirt. That's the best we can do.
Yeah, right. Like a meet and greet with him alone would do wonders.
Because even when you mention it, I don't think it's around anymore. When they had the Star Wars launch bay.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah. It was like, they had a bunch of stuff. It was for the new trilogy, old trilogy. It was all around.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love meeting Darth Vader there. He's great.
Yeah. So it's like one of those things where I get it, but how many people are going to be offended if you decide to tweak it just a bit?
Yeah, that's the question too. And I think that's why I see so many screen-based attractions. I just think in like 10 or 15 years, I'm like, they could just switch out the movies. Like, and change a few things here and there, and then you'd be good. Not that Disney has as many of those, but for something like Web Slingers that is so much screen-based, I'm thinking like, that's something that even if you don't completely like say it's not Spider-Man anymore, but if you say, hey, guess what? It's a new villain that he's fighting for this period of time, that would bring people in and be like a little more, I think, forgiving versus it just being like, oh, it's just, we've seen this before. Right.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, even the case of like, Despicable Me, where it's like, okay, you released this film between 1 and 2 and it's not dated. It's still canon, but it's been like 10 years.
Mm.
You own Illumination. You can make a new ride film,
Yeah.
I mean, for the longest time, people talked about like Shrek. Like Shrek is a mini sequel between 1 and 2. I know it's rest in peace. It's finally closing in January. Yeah. But, it's like I get why Disney does that for Star Wars, because it's set in stone. It's in this universe. We don't really have to worry about tweaking anything. We can always add to it somewhere else or make the changes down the line. And this has always been the thing with Universal. The moment they have something out, it does become dated because it's based off a movie franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Transformers is what, between 1 and 2, I think, or
Oh,
2 and 3.
I guess you're probably right. Yeah.
Because when you think about it, it's that little piece of the AllSpark, which is the only thing left, I believe, heading into the second movie. So I could be wrong. Don't hold me to it. Where's the third movie? I don't remember that. Those Michael Bay films are like 10 to 15. God, I feel old saying that right now. But you know what I mean? It's like, I get it. I respect it in some shape or form, but also, if you have other Star Wars stuff that is doing really well and you don't get it into your parks, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's just me. I could be wrong, but I feel like you could always incorporate this. They do it for everything else, but like you said, if whoever's involved in that say no, this is it, figure something else out to make it work, I guess that's what they want to do. I feel like they probably, not that they don't respect Marvel, I feel like they respect then the canon and the legacy of Star Wars more than any other franchise they have.
Oh yeah, it's like a sacred timeline, and I get why they do that, but at the same time, you're right, it does limit them, and then you do lose and miss out on a lot of synergistic moments where, especially with these TV shows, now that they're doing well, and obviously they didn't know for sure how well they were going to do, but if you have these things pop up, you do want to bring those characters and have them walk around the parks like Ahsoka. Like, if you could have her walking around Batuu, people would be really excited about that. And that's an opportunity that you can't really jump on right now until you tweak and say, hey, you know what, we're changing this. So yeah, I think you and I are saying the same things here. Again, not that for people out there who love Batuu and all that, it's great, it's amazing. Trust me, I think it's wonderful. But it's like
Folks,
more.
Don't get it wrong. As Jimmy goes to theme parks, and I make videos about theme parks. Yeah. We actually like theme parks. We do not hate them.
I love them. I love them so much.
We are just we've been, I guess we could say, we've been going to them for such a long time, and we've dug into its history. We follow these parks.
Yeah.
We want them to succeed. And again, we're no businessmen.
Yeah.
We don't have any say in the matter.
Nope.
We just like voicing our opinions on it, and hopefully it sticks.
Yeah, right? It's like, I wonder sometimes about my beloved Pirates of the Caribbean and how when they added, Jack Sparrow and Barbossa and stuff, people were frustrated about that. But because of that and some of the other changes they've made where they've added red and changed a few things, it's allowed that ride to adapt over many decades and not be completely taken out. Because if Pirates, didn't become a massive success as a film, it would be this kind of like thing that just exists in the parks. And now they're trying to kind of rectify with Haunted Mansion, where they're like, all right, we're going to take another crack at a movie. We're going to go again because people love the Haunted Mansion so much. And I love that those are things that were built and born and, are existing today in the parks. But the reason some of these, I think, exist over time so much better is that they add things and they were original ideas, but they've learned that over time things are going to change, as opposed to being like, let's just get rid of it and do something completely new,
Yeah, no. When it comes to what I assume are the 4 pillars of like Disneyland, which is, Mansion, Matterhorn, Space Mountain, and Pirates of the Caribbean. If you keep the spirit of the attraction, you do not completely change everything about it. You can make tweaks here and there. For better or for worse, that's up to opinions, that's up to theme park goers, whatever. But if you don't remove what makes the ride great, I don't see a problem with it. So, not that it's the same example, but when they decide to re-add the Hatbox Ghost.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great addition.
Right. I was thinking about that, yeah.
Yeah. So, some people like to go, like you said, they mentioned all those changes to Pirates of the Caribbean. Fans don't like it because they're just trying to, capitalize on whatever's popular. Whatever changes they have to make, because whether it's money or something else that's pressuring them to do so be it. But like the Hatbox Ghost, that's an instant classic. Didn't work at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? They They brought back something that people were asking for a long time. So, I mean, I get it. You want it. You could make changes because you have to adapt. Otherwise, people won't come.
Mhm.
But at the same time, you don't want to ruin what made your park special in the first place.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And it's so funny you brought up Space Mountain, which, like, for people who know both of us, know that I was so lucky to work with you on your Space Mountain video, and how here at Disneyland they do overlays and stuff, and not as much right now. But I think I did it like once or twice. I did Hyperspace Mountain, and I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of this version of Space Mountain. I like the classic one over in Florida.
Mhm.
That's the one I grew up with. But the Hyperspace Mountain stuff I thought was so cool. And then it also made Star Tours feel a little more at home in Tomorrowland, because there were like two Star Warsy type things going on. Because right now Star Tours is just kind of like by itself over there. It's like Star Tours, like Tomorrowland. But yeah, Hyperspace Mountain, I was like, yeah. But also I'm just a sucker for John Williams music. So I was like, yeah,
You
put
can't
that in
go
the
wrong.
right. Yeah, I'm like, perfect.
I mean, how many bangers did he's put out over his
Oh
career?
my
I mean,
gosh,
come on now.
so many.
Nothing wrong with that.
Right?
No.
But yeah, it's just, I'm so curious to see, especially with Batuu, and like you said, with Avengers, like, I don't know where the MCU is going to go in the future. Obviously, it's been a massive success, but how that will change over time. But I really think Web Slingers is primed more so than any of the others to be able to switch out just a few videos, and it's a completely different attraction. Kind of like they do with Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout for their Halloween Monsters After Dark. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they could change it. I mean, not to say they could make it. You could give everybody except a web slinger, like just a blaster, like Tony Stark has on his hand, and then boom, it's a different ride altogether. You know?
Do you not know about the Iron Man gauntlets?
Is that an actual thing?
It's also a different thing you could purchase in the store, and you could shoot repulsors.
Oh man,
I'm sorry.
So see. I should work for theme parks. Well, I'm good with the capitalist side because that was already just do that, swap it out. You can make some money.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh god.
Yep. No, totally.
Well, that's a bad thing then if I'm already saying something like that, right?
See, well, that just means that you know where the trends are going, and I haven't ridden it enough to see a lot of people use those. Even though I walked through the Spider-Man store and kind of looked around at everything, and I was like, I saw the wall of all of those kind of different things, because right now it was like the Iron Man repulsors, and then there was like a web slinger itself, which you don't need any of these to ride that attraction. It's just it would kind of help pick out what you're doing, and also might make it easier for you to score higher, that's an intrinsic thing if you're really into scoring really high. Like I don't know.
You should not have to pay to win.
Yes, you
at a
shouldn't.
theme park.
Yeah.
No.
Oh no.
You shouldn't have to pay to win in general. But
yeah, right.
I mean, again, if you're doing it for the score, fine. For a souvenir, I understand. But the way that originally I was reading stuff and how they were touting these add-ons and these additions, I'm like, don't be telling people they need to buy this. If they want to buy it and it works with your ride, fine.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when I still think they do it, like with the lightsabers. Oh yeah, you can buy your own different type of crystal, but one of these crystals might have the black crystal, and like you had to literally, I won't say it's like a loot box, but people were literally putting flashlights to the containers that held those crystals so they could find that rare one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I get it, but at the same time, like, don't do that. Just let people, if they want it, just let them buy it.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do, you know? It's like, I don't know. I guess I come from a time, you come from a time where we spent our money, we don't expect anything else. Everything else, if it's additional,
right,
it's because it adds to the experience. It's not necessary for it.
Yeah. I don't know. I wonder if there's like a happy middle ground where it's like, I'm not saying you should ignite your lightsaber on Rise of the Resistance or something, but like at one moment, like Kylo would turn to you and he would say, he's like, I think one of them has a lightsaber or something like that. Like that might, like, where it's just like a voice line that doesn't change the attraction, versus you having to like buy things to be like, oh, well, if you want the really best experience, you're going to want to buy this pistol to go on Pirates of the Caribbean because you can actually shoot at a few people and stuff happens. Right. Like, I feel like, wait, what?
If you want this exclusive Jack Sparrow line, you must purchase this 1999 thing, you know? It's like, we need to stop talking about it because it's going to happen. If we're saying somebody right now is going, some employee's like, I'm about to make my rise to fame at Disney. Hey, listen, I got this great idea, Imagineers. Let's go to work.
You're welcome. Please make animatronics of us and put them.
I want my royalty cuts right now.
Exactly.
I want my own animatronic now on Pirates of the Caribbean if that happens.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you want that? I just want to give the pitch for Disney's 5th park, which I've already made a video about. I think it's going to happen, especially after that 3rd park's coming into Universal. I think Disney's going to be like, yeah, we don't like you. You're getting too close to 4 parks. Like, we're making a 5th park just to be like, ha, we got 5.
That's it. And like, listen, come visit our park instead. That's. I'm not saying it's going to be like an Eisner move when they did Hollywood Studios, but they'll. I'll be honest, they'll probably do it just to undermine what Universal's doing with it with the 3rd park. I wouldn't be surprised.
Would like an original, like they wouldn't probably wouldn't do this, but would like a fully original idea and park with only things that they've come up with? Would that be something to you that would be the most compelling?
It probably would. It goes back to a lot of concepts that didn't happen because of whatever reason. Cough. Disneyland Paris failing, and a lot of money having to be spent on that, and then them having to cut stuff. But I mean, the closest thing we had to like original park was Animal Kingdom.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the last thing they did there. But I wouldn't be surprised if a new park was more IP based. If you did something original, here's the only issue: what type of original idea would you go? Hey, that's really interesting. I'm going to go visit.
Yeah.
Like that's my. I think you touched on it. Didn't you say something about like a villains only park?
Yeah, I promoted this too much, Jack, but I've made this whole video about it. I think you do villains.
It's your podcast. You can promote whatever you want.
No, I think villains only park, Disney's Villainous Kingdom. I have all the rides and it's all set up. It's ready to go. But I really think because the villains have gotten so popular, and I think there's been like a love for villains, but like a while ago you couldn't say like your favorite character was a villain because people would look at you, they'd be like, how dare you, like what's wrong with you? But now like they have so much villains merchandise, and I see it everywhere in the parks, like people wearing it and buying it and loving it. And they do these kind of, special nights, especially at Walt Disney World, like the villains like after hour party. If they had their own park that was like a 365-day-year villain/Halloween park, I think they'd make all the money. Like, it would be crazy. Yeah,
because today's it's cool to like the bad guy.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So you have both sides of it. I'm not saying they should. Again, I want my money now.
Yep.
If they could do they technically can't, but if they just imagine like a 5th park, all villains.
Yeah.
A bunch of Marvel villains.
Oh, yeah. You could do
that in one
too.
section. I'm not saying Pixar really has villains, but, something along those lines. Or even if you did something with the classic characters.
Yep.
Just all those animation,
Yep.
I'm throwing stuff out there.
Yeah.
Scar is now, I know it happens in the movie, but now Scar is the head of the lion, he is the Lion King.
Yep.
And he has a ride based on that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that, yeah, I'd probably go. Different, unique, probably would stand out. People would like it. And it's a complete 180 of what you are expecting from Disney.
Yes.
It ain't happily ever after there.
Yeah, oh, definitely not.
So
yeah, well, and my pitch is based off of more of the old school animated villains. However, there were a few like Syndrome from Incredibles, who I like, and then also Tamatoa he's kind of like a minor villain, but in just for more of like a lighter tone, but the giant crab in Moana.
Yes.
Like stuff like that, but like Yzma needs a ride. Like Maleficent needs a ride. Like, and then also give me that Monsters Inc. Roller coaster through the doors and make Randall the bad guy. Like that is it's perfect. It's such a perfect idea.
I mean, again, listen. Stop saying that. They're going to take the ideas right now, man.
If they do it, I would just be happy because I'd be like, oh, there are people out there who are going to enjoy this idea. And I'd be like, I might not be getting the money for it, but if they want to consult, if Josh tomorrow wants to call me up, I'm waiting, Josh. I'm sure.
You just go, listen, Josh, here's this video. I'll settle now with a lifetime pass to the Disney parks.
Exactly.
That's it. That's all I'm willing to. Oh, and fast pass. No lightning lane. None of that BS. I want dibs on the first anytime I want.
Yeah, I want
That's it.
a laminated old fashioned fast pass that's good for every attraction forever, and I just walk up
it.
to and I show it to them. They're like, "Oh, right this way, Mr. Good," and
That's
they're like,
it.
"That's right." Like, thank you very much.
That's it.
Like,
Why is he skipping the line? Oh, because he came up with this idea for the park.
they're like,
Thank
"Oh,
you.
exactly."
And
Thank
you
you.
just keep walking.
Yeah, thank
That's
you.
it.
They'd be like, "Oh, that's him." Yeah, but I really do think if it's not villains, I really think at some point there'll be a fifth park at Walt Disney World just to kind of be like, "Yep, we're doing something else
Yeah.
too."
Give it 10 years.
Give it, yeah, exactly. Well, then think about that.
10
though.
years. 10 years to announce it. 20 years to build it.
Well, which obviously things have changed since the mid '50s, but like the fact that they built Disneyland in like a year, and like how different things are now with safety measures and red tape and all of that. But like back in the day, it was like, yeah, can you build it? Just don't die. Like let's make this stuff. Nowadays, it's like this is gonna be a while.
Yeah,
which
definitely. It's like, well, back it was like, if somebody dies, then we'll change it. Now it's like, we can't let that happen anymore because rules have changed and lawsuits are all a thing. And,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Safety first.
Yeah, which I like the safety. It's a good thing, but it does make it a little bit. It takes a bit more time to get these things made. But if they do, or when they make this fifth park, it just means that when you go there, you would have 5 theme parks, 2 water parks, their shopping districts. So like if people went there, it would be like at least 1 week now for sure at Disney World or Walt Disney World. Not to mention Universal and stuff, but Universal wants to be like that, and that's why they're making a third park, because they want people to come spend a full week there. So I totally get it. I get why they're doing it. Let's go Epic Universe. I'm hoping for the best, man.
Listen, I'm still gonna go. Like I said, maybe it's best now. Unlike many things I see today, if I keep my expectations so low, maybe I will be impressed with something. Because it just seems, not just in general, it's just like seems like with theme parks lately, everything that gets announced, I don't know if it's the hype that's built up or just the expectations of stuff, it just never really lives up to it. So
Sure.
I don't know. So if I'm like, yeah, Epic Universe, whatever, and I go, this is the best place ever, when I actually go there, I'll be delightfully surprised.
Right? It's weird that I think the most interesting rumor or thing to come out of that one specifically was like the all virtual queues. Like I was thinking, oh, that to me is really fascinating. Like if they're actually going to try to do only virtual queues at Epic Universe. You know,
I won't. I get the concept now, but
Yeah,
seeing
right?
how like Disney's been doing it and how the execution's been like 50-50. I mean,
Yeah.
you know what happens? It's like everything else. Brand new ride opens, we're doing a virtual queue. It's like when you're trying to buy something brand new online, get tickets for something, the system ain't gonna be able to work. It's gonna crash. It's gonna have its
Yeah.
issues. It's gonna need to be. You gotta fix the bugs, the tweaks, all that stuff. So if they can figure it out, sure, it could be great. If they can't figure it out, I'll wait online like everything else.
Yeah, right. I think about stuff like that where I always want to see them push theme parks to be more efficient and like stuff that like I think Walt, if he were alive today, would be like, all right, clearly all the switchbacks are not working anymore. We're going to try something new. So if they do that and it is successful to some extent, I wonder what that will mean for the future and continuation of parks that we have now. Like if you're like, yeah, I got a virtual queue for Pirates of the Caribbean in like 45 minutes and then it's only like a 5-minute wait, I just walk right on. I don't know, or people hate that because they're like, I want to be more impulsive and I don't want to have to plan everything. It's fascinating to me, man.
as long as there is a way to do this without having to constantly have your phone out.
Yeah, that's
like, listen, let me ask you, because it's been a long ass time. They still use Magic Band, right? That's still a thing.
Magic Band's at Walt Disney World. It is finally coming to Disneyland.
Okay, so this is just, again, I want my money now. If there was a way that you go to a ride and there's a virtual queue set up, right? Wave your Magic Band, and then when it gets close to it, I don't know how Magic Band works. I don't know if it's like an Apple Watch. It vibrates. Okay, it's vibrating. Queue's in 5 minutes. And then you go back to the ride, wave your Magic Band, and boom, you're waiting for the ride right there.
That is exactly the way.
Give me my money.
Yeah.
I can retire now.
That's how Tapu Tapu works over at Volcano Bay.
damn it, they already took my idea.
I'm sorry, but that's exactly what I'm talking about, buddy. Like that I hope is the future, because that is exactly what it does. It shows, it's like a little screen, I think, and it's like, hey, they're calling you back to this thing, and you're like, oh, cool. You just go there, and it's just like a 5 or 10 minute wait. It's like,
yeah. If I had my DeLorean, I can go back in time.
I think they took him out of most of the Universal parks too. There aren't any more DeLoreans there, except for like maybe you'll see Doc Brown hanging out by one.
I think he's the only one he's at is the one in Florida, because they still have the DeLorean and the train right before Springfield. It's like very weird that, like, you know, he's just standing right there, like next to where his land used to be.
He's like holding out hope. Which also I wonder too, what the contract is with Simpsons and all that stuff, because like now that that's a Disney product, I'm like, I wonder if that will always still be in Universal, or if something will change.
I assume within 5 years, 10 years maybe, because here's the thing, I believe it was a 20-year deal that started in 2008.
Okay, all right.
If they never decide to build Springfield, I'm sure as hell if they could get out of it earlier, they would. But since Springfield kind of brings in a decent amount of money, Universal will hang on to it. But they also realize that they're giving their cut to Disney now.
Yeah.
They might not want to do that, you know? Marvel's a different story because they're doing it specifically not for them to give up. They're probably the biggest franchise that Disney owns right now.
Mm-hmm.
They have it as competition in Florida. I don't think we're seeing the Simpsons ride in any type of Disney park.
Yeah.
I think that boat has sailed, even though the show just won't die.
Yeah, that would be weird to see it now. Like, what? Maybe Hollywood Studios is where you could put that, right?
That's
like,
the only place I would imagine would fit. You're not putting in like Disneyland. You're not. God forbid you saw Bart in Toontown and be like, "What is this crossover, man?"
Oh my gosh, dude, that would be
Bart
incredible.
Simpson and Roger Rabbit in the same place. You go, what?
Yeah.
What fever dream am I in?
They're ripping out the American Adventure and they're putting in a Simpsons ride at Epcot. Wouldn't that drive people insane? You'd be like,
if you have the Simpsons characters all playing those original characters.
Oh my gosh.
Something like that. That's the only way I say it could work.
They're like, Homer Simpson is Mark Twain, and you'd be like, what? Oh no!
But you know what? But if you're like me, you have a sixth sense of humor. That actually might work.
Sure.
If you have the good writers from The Simpsons doing it, okay, yes. It's like one of those random Simpsons episodes they have,
mm-hmm.
where like that Bart has to write something, and all of a sudden he blacks out, and then all of a sudden all the characters are playing those characters from whatever book report he's doing. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just got to get Conan back, do some writing or something.
That's it. Listen, you know what? You don't even have to make a Simpsons ride. If Disney does it, monorail.
Dude, yes.
Something like that. One monorail going way too fast.
Oh my gosh. And it's just like the only monorail, and they have some screens in there, and they're playing like old Simpsons episodes of just that episode, I should say.
The only thing they'd be playing is a song for the monorail the entire time.
Monorail? People are like, not that one.
When people go, what is this? Like, I don't remember this. It'd be something like that. But...
Oh my gosh. That's so funny. My goodness, we covered so much. Is there anything else, like, theme park wise in the last year or so that you wanted to touch on before we wrap up today's show?
No, I actually think we covered everything. My grievances with everything, like usual. We covered kind of more of the bigger openings, that have come, and what the future may or may not hold for theme parks. So it's nice just to be able to talk about theme parks again, because with everything that happened last year with the pandemic, I know they were closed for a bit. I'll be honest with you, Jimmy. My interest in the parks, just in theme parks in general, kind of faded because I couldn't go to them.
Yeah.
With everything going on. So, catching up and talking about them again, it's a nice trip. Whether good or bad, it's still a nice trip.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Oh, and I really hope you can get back to them eventually. And like I said, if you want to come out to Hollywood, buddy, you're welcome. Just
make sure you got a blanket and a pillow for that couch.
They're both right on the couch right now. It's like I have it set up for you. I'd probably give you the bed because it's like
that's not fair. That's not fair. As long as you don't have a futon that's like gonna hurt my back and you got an actual couch, I'll be fine.
Well, we'll have to discuss that. I don't know exactly what it is.
Airbnb it is.
Airbnb. Yeah, right. But yeah, I would also love to have. I don't know how, I still try to find people to go to Hollywood Horror Nights with at some point, because like I'm not a big like spooky people jumping out and yelling at me thing, but like in a theme park and then also like going on Jurassic, at night would be so cool. I'm like, I just need to have somebody to go with. Like, I'd be like, hey, we're going to this. I don't know. Have you ever gone to those Hollywood Horror Nights?
I have only gone 2 years.
Okay, yes.
We had pushed back my family vacation, so we were actually going in at the end of September, right when Halloween Horror Nights 17 started. And 17 was a pretty big one. It was the first year they had Jason, Freddy, and Leatherface.
Whoa.
And Jack the Clown. So 17 kind of started my interest in Halloween Horror Nights. Also, that Halloween Horror Nights had the best haunted house of all time, the Thing House from the original movie.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Really good stuff. Really good props and animatronics and whatever they were doing. And then the only other one I went to was 21, which was Lady Luck, which was okay. It wasn't really anything stand out. That was around the time, the peak of The Walking Dead dominating everything in Halloween Horror Nights.
Oh, sure. Yeah, exactly. Because that was just, they had to continue to do it because it's just so big. Just so big.
Of course.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to 30 this year because it was a pretty big event. But just work, I could not get off for a weekend.
Okay.
And these type of events, if you don't get your hotel room and you don't book your tickets early enough and you're trying to go, you'd be lucky enough maybe to get into 2 of the houses during the night, because sometimes the wait times are like 90 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and that's just for one house.
Yeah. Oh,
so.
Well, it's weird too. I know that they were doing like one that was always here at Hollywood, which was just like the Walking Dead house was here all the time, not just for like Halloween.
Yeah, it was like a small standalone attraction.
Yeah.
It was actually an attraction, and yeah, it was nothing special. There was one before that too. I've covered the House of Horrors, which was like all the Universal classic monsters.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, basically it was just a year-round haunted house.
Okay.
And I know that closed, I think, because of The Secret Life of Pets.
Ah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's back right over there too.
Plus, it goes to show you, comic book's done, video game is done, the ride is done, but the TV show is still going strong.
Yeah.
So you can't kill what's already dead.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's so funny. They've tried like multiple times. Like, no, it's still going. I don't know.
No, and then because my dad is, I think, the only person I know who still watches it dedicatedly every Sunday night. I'm like,
right?
I guess because he's invested so much time, he's just like, I'll see this crap through at this point. And I know they're supposed to do like spin-off movies. I'm just like, oh man.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. Not that I'm not getting off track. If the comic book that's based on the stuff is over, how is the show still going?
Sure, it's like Game of Thrones where they were like, well, the last book wasn't written or whatever it was, and they're like, well, we still got to keep making
hasn't been.
Yeah.
Still. And I'm just saying, like, by the time that book comes out, there'll be like 2 or 3 spin-off series.
Yeah.
And a reboot of Game of Thrones. You wait and see. It's going to happen.
Oh my gosh, that's going to be an epic universe, Jack. They're going to buy the rights to theme park stuff for Game of Thrones.
I don't think you could show half that stuff in a theme park.
Well, that's true. That's right. They would have to make it. They'd be like, all right.
Give me the Red Wedding. Who cares? Yeah, just do that. That's Halloween Horror Nights. Boom.
There you go. Hey, Jack, there you go. Genius. We're geniuses.
I want my money.
Yeah, right?
That's it. Yeah.
Send your checks, everybody. But yeah, Jack, this has been so much fun, man. I love talking to you just in general, but then also talking about theme parks, which is kind of the thing that brought us together. And like for people who don't know, I think pretty much everybody listening to this already knows you. But if they don't, Jack runs a channel over on YouTube called Theme Park History, where he goes through and talks about the various histories of theme park attractions. And he's covered Universal and a bunch of Disney ones and some other offshot ones that aren't like from the big parks, right?
Yeah, not as many. I think the only one that really stands out was Journey to Atlantis from SeaWorld Orlando.
Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I personally, I vouch for it. They're so good. They're so entertaining. And I've watched plenty of them multiple times. Not the one I was in, everybody. Like, I don't just like listen to that again and again. Like, there I am. But if you're looking for like to get your theme park fix and just to like hear somebody talk about just like the facts of how all these things came together, but then also you started to inject more and more of your own humor and opinions. See Fast and Furious Supercharged, which I think is one of the funniest things on the internet, at least for me. Like, it's a good one.
If you want to hear somebody for about 25 minutes complain about a theme park ride, that's the video to watch.
Mhm.
That's it. Where somebody who wants to self-inflict himself by doing so, that's the video to watch.
Right?
Yes.
But please go over there and check out his channel. If you like a few of those things, then obviously like them, but then consider subscribing. Because I know, like, you probably gotten this a lot too, Jack, but, like, I've noticed a lot of channels, they just ask you to subscribe immediately. And I know it's free on YouTube, but I always tell people, like, only do it if you watch a few of my things and you like it, because I don't want you to, like, be like, I subscribe to you. I don't like anything you do besides that one video. Like, I'm like, only subscribe if you're consistent. And that's my call to action for everybody this week. Please don't worry about me. Go check out Theme Park History and see all the things and, like, listen to. You've been doing this for years now. There's lots of stuff on that channel.
Yeah, it's wow, over 4 years, I think. Yeah. I don't know. Time flies when you're not having fun anymore, I guess. No, I focus mainly on Universal and Disney because that's what I'm accustomed to. I'm still, since I took a year off hiatus wise because of the pandemic and a bunch of other personal stuff, I'm still trying to catch up on a lot that I didn't cover in year 3. That being, like, the Haunted Mansion, Poseidon's Fury, the Backlot Studio Tour, Universal Studios Hollywood, Journey into Imagination and all of its crappier versions from the original. But, you know, we're still covering a bunch. I've already kind of told people, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I can get my stuff together and get it done. The day Shrek 4D closes in Florida is the day I'm releasing that video.
Oh, nice.
So
Synergy.
I've finished the script. I have the intro. It is either going to make people laugh or make people very disturbed.
Oh,
because
excellent.
if you know Shrek, there's a meme, and that is the intro to the video. So, but it's done in a different way. So
excellent. I did a joking Shrek video earlier this year, so, like, I'm glad that I'm not the only person who's making these jokes. Well done.
Well, we'll see. Well, we'll see, because the way I have to do it, I have to make sure it's still PG, so I don't get the video blocked. So I mean, I'm working on it. I'm still working on another video I'm trying to get out by the end of this year. I don't want to give it away. And I've made a promise. I'm still working on it because I have to find the right place to record it to do the face reveal that I promised when I got 100,000 subscribers. So the stuff I needed for the video showed up. It's just a matter of trying to figure out how to record it without looking like very amateurish. Plus, there's a whole thing. I'm not going to give it away, but it's more of a skit-based thing, but we're going to see how funny it actually ends up being.
Okay. Oh, I'm looking forward to this, man. This is... Oh, yeah, I was like, can you tease stuff? That's what I was thinking earlier. I was like, oh, maybe I should ask him to tease some stuff. You've already done it. Well done.
Well, yeah, I teased it. The only thing I'll say about the face reveal is that either it's going to go over very well or it's going to be going over very bad, because over the last year, I discovered a YouTuber by the name of, I don't think anybody really heard him. He got pretty big now. He's on G4, Scott the Woz.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm going to mimic something of his. I don't think it's going to go over well because I'm not as funny, but I'm going to try. And that'll be the only attempt at skit humor I ever do on the channel, because I know what the comments are going to say. Go back to just making videos about the theme parks, not about yourself.
Yep. Well, I think you're an integral part of that. And obviously, you know, I appreciate hearing all the information, but then I also like getting a little bit of your opinion too. And that's just a personal thing, you know.
You know, it's there. You know, it doesn't. Again, I'm not the star of the show. It's the people and the attractions themselves responsible for making it.
Right.
So, you know, I'm just the one who puts all the information together. I tell you everything about the ride. I tell you what goes on during the ride in case it's not around anymore. And I tell you what happens to the ride if it closed, or any changes that have happened. Because I think a lot of people enjoy going to theme parks, but they don't realize how much goes into those rides, those shows that are some of, you know, your favorite. And again, these Imagineers, designers, everybody, they're unsung heroes when it comes to some of your favorite attractions. So they might have stories to tell, but they might not get out there for people to really see. You know, we've seen it a little bit more now. Disney does their own thing. But, you know, when a corporation is doing it for their own rides, they might not want to, you know, sugarcoat everything. They'll tell you all the good stuff, not the bad. being independent, I could tell you if something's good or something sucks.
Sure. Yeah, you have that freedom, which I feel
Unless I
like
get banned from the parks, then I won't do it.
yeah, exactly, right? I feel like in some of the stuff, especially the more recent, I don't know if you've seen on Disney Plus, but the behind the attraction stuff, which is very similar to like the stuff you do. They like when they interview people, it's not always like, yes, it went perfectly and everyone had a good time doing it. It's like, no, this was really tough and like we had a hard
Well,
time.
they should, because again, not everything is cut and paste. It's kind of, these things take a lot of time and dedication. And if you're like they were doing most of the time, you're building something completely brand new.
Hmm.
It's not always going to work. It's a head scratcher. It's painful. People don't realize that in some shape or form, theme park rides are kind of its own type of art. It's like a
Yeah.
movie, a TV show, a song, video game, book, whatever. There are struggles along the way of creating these things, but once it comes all together, it might be the greatest, it might be the worst, but at least it's something that came from an idea and was fleshed out, and something that everybody can enjoy, hate, like, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's grueling, and you know what? I'm glad Disney's actually doing something, but a lot of people did first, and
Yeah.
it is what it is. What it
Right.
is.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
but like I said, I enjoy doing it, and I'm glad that a lot of people enjoy watching it, and whether it's because they find it entertaining, informative, or they just want to know what am I getting myself into when I go on this ride,
Hmm.
whatever it is, I'm glad, I'm happy that so many people enjoy what we do.
Oh, totally. Yes. And I am among them. And like I've said to you in the past, is like basically this show, the podcast is just a reason to talk to people. And I'm so glad that we've remained and, started a friendship through this stuff where it's just like, hey, it's like, I just want to talk to my buddy Jack, but let's like record it and talk about theme parks.
It's nice because at least we shoot the shit all the time.
Yeah.
And even that, like right now, this would be a casual conversation between you and me
Yeah. Right.
about like what's going on. So, I mean, I'm like I said, you reached out to me right when I started. We've been doing this for a while now, back and forth. And like I said, I'm always very happy to come on the show
Ah.
and talk to you. If it's not about theme parks down the line, so be it. I'm sure we'll find something to talk about.
Oh yeah, exactly. And that's one of my favorite things to do too, is like pull people who like have such a dedicated thing that they work on and then ask them about something completely different, because clearly you're all human beings and you're not just like the only thing I take in is theme parks. Like, there are other things out there like video games and movies that you partake in, right?
Yeah.
And that's fascinating.
I would hope so.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
Not to say it's a bad thing, but you always have more than one hobby.
Yes.
Because you never know what can happen,
Yep, exactly. Last question for you, and I don't know if I've asked this in the past. Do you have a favorite episode of the show that you've done for the channel?
It's always kind of tough because, not to say that all of them are my favorite, because they're not.
Yeah.
For whether it's I struggled with the video, footage is hard to find because it's an old ass attraction, so they could be lost to time. I think it comes down between the Men in Black ride, because of the fact that was like one of the first kind of skit-ish videos I did where, it's also a recruitment video for the Men in Black. While I'm Jack, I'm also now Agent J for the Men in Black.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, it's kind of a little bit meta of itself with the
Yeah.
ride, so it kind of works. And the other one, probably, I always like the Spider-Man video, only because it's one of my favorite attractions.
Oh, it's so good.
So to be able to talk about it, and plus just to try to, I think for me it's like you always try to find something relatable to put in that video. So at the end, we did like a Marvel tease at the end of their movies for like the Incredible Hulk,
Oh yeah.
and then for the Incredible Hulk, I did a tease for the Iron Man ride.
Yes.
So I like to just try to do things that people are going to be able to relate to. So or at least the ride I'm covering, if there's a topic or something, just put it in there in some shape or form. But it's between those two. I lean more towards Men in Black.
Sure. Okay. So if you're listening to this right now and you want to go check either of those out, you totally should. I don't know if I have a favorite. I'm just a sucker for dinosaur / Countdown to Extinction. So when I saw that you did that, back in the day, I was like, oh yes.
I'll just say this. You know how many people still send comments saying, It's not closed. It's not closed. When I said no, Countdown to Extinction was the original version. No, it's still open. You don't get it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, Jimmy, I don't mean to keep going on. There are still people 3 years after I put out that Jurassic Park ride because I said it was the most expensive attraction ever made. And I put the correction in because it was billed by Universal as the most expensive attraction at the time. No, $100 million isn't that much. I'm like, please stop commenting.
Yeah.
Like Jimmy, we talked about it, and I'm gonna reveal it in the video. And I don't mean to keep revealing everything.
Oh, that's fine. I love
I'm doing something to that Jurassic Park ride video down the line.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
doing something different, and it correlates to something we talked about at the beginning of this video. So I have plans for my comeback. Whether or not they pan out because of everything else that happens in my life, we'll see. But I have something in mind to get people to stop telling me that it's not the most expensive ride ever, but it also correlates to something else with that ride itself. So so 2 birds with 1 stone. People get what they want, and then they stop leaving those comments.
I love it. Also, I wouldn't call it a comeback. You've been here for years. You know, you're just biding your time. It's like that one song. I'm sure everybody knows what I'm talking about. But no, man, I'm looking forward to that, dude. As someone who's only had one video do super well and has gotten a weird range of comments that continuously still trickle in, I know a little bit of what you're talking about, but all of your videos are like that.
Welcome to the world of YouTube, where no matter what you tell somebody, 1 + 1 is 2. Somebody will call you a moron and tell you you're wrong.
Exactly.
So, that's why these days I look the first 6 hours when a video comes out, the comments, and I move on.
There you go.
I'm like, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
That's it. So it's YouTube.
At least
I don't take it.
Yeah.
I don't take the comment section serious.
But you do leave it on, and that's nice because a lot of people will come in and they'll say,
Yeah.
"Hey, would you mind, talking about this one?" And then you can put it up later.
I put any request they put in. The only problem with that is that then I have to go through all my comments to find that screenshot, put it in. Screenshot, put it in. So when it's like an attraction that has like over 300 requests, I'm like, oh my god, this thing that I'm not gonna lie, that sometimes takes the longest when it comes to editing a video.
But you know what? Quick too.
Yeah, it's like here's 4 seconds while I'm saying so thank you to everyone for the comments.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, I hope it was worth it. And then it'll go, my name. Somebody once said, you put that in, but my name changed. I'm like, that's not my fault. What do you want from me? You put that comment in 2019. I screenshot it, and then you changed your name 3 weeks after I finished the video. What do you want from me? Let me go I gotta do a recon. I gotta redo the whole video so I could put this guy's thing instead of the old name.
That is so funny. Like, the next thing you know, it'll be like, all right, they're gonna, like, have you ask everyone if they can, like, if you can put the comment in the video. You have to be like, all right, well, I'm sorry. They'd be like, I would have appreciated if you would have asked me before I put that in.
The best one, I'm not making this, the best one, I don't remember his name. It was the crying Michael Jordan meme.
Okay, yeah.
His comment was when I was doing Revenge of the Mummy. And he goes, you gotta cover Revenge of the Mummy because Imhotep is my boy. I said, I don't know what it was about that, but when the fact he said that Imhotep is my boy, I said, that's it. That's going dead center in the middle of one of those photos.
Yeah, right?
So everybody can see it.
Dude, that person sounds great. Imhotep is my boy.
If he really just knew Imhotep, he wouldn't be around that much longer, I'll tell you that much.
Right, unless he was, like, dedicated himself and only was useful, because the second he wasn't, he'd be toast.
Yeah, that's it, just like in the movie.
Yep,
That's
right?
it.
Like, maybe he just saw, like, screenshots of Imhotep, and he's like, that guy seems pretty cool. I think we'd be friends. He's my boy. And it's like,
You'll find out real quick.
Yeah, find out real quick. Oh, man, I miss those movies. Yeah. Good stuff. Anyway, so there you go, everybody. Please go, like I said, check out Theme Park History. Tell them Jimmy sent you. And go check out Revenge of the Mummy as well on there. Not the movie, I suppose. Well, actually, sorry, it's the ride. Was it Return of the Mummy was the movie?
Yeah, but I always figured, like, you had the Mummy, Revenge of the Mummy, or Return of the Mummy, and then Revenge of the Mummy would be a good way to end the trilogy.
Yeah, right?
So I don't know why they never decided to go with that title.
Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
Don't. I do a very good job of blocking that out.
Fair enough.
So,
I don't know what you're talking about.
yes.
But yeah, Jack, again, thank you so much for being on the show today, man. I really appreciate it. It's just so
No
much fun to
problem,
talk
Jimmy.
to you.
Jimmy, it's a pleasure getting back together and talking. I really looked forward to this today.
Excellent. Well, likewise, my friend. And well, I'm going to wrap up with Jack off air, everybody. But thank you for hanging out today. Thank you for everybody who's been liking and commenting on the videos. And a huge thank you to our patrons. You guys don't have to do any of that if you're just listening. I just hope you enjoy it. Until next time, just remember to adapt and overcome.